করে সব রয়েছে। হ্যাঁ, তুমি বলো যে একটা এমনি পাঠাতে যেটা পুরোটা আছে, আর আরেকটা খালি এমওইউ পার্টটা সেগ্রিগেট করে পাঠাতে, দুটো ফাইল পাঠাতে পারো। হ্যাঁ, তুমি ঠিক আছে।
Annual meet and annual seminar of basis 23. Okay, online.
अच्छा, एथरे वाइस चांसलर लिखा है तो एथरे वाइस चांसलर कॉलिंग किस व्यू आछो तो दीपक कुमार बेहरा आछे चेंज कर चलाओ.
Kindly
Vice
keep
Chancellor.
standing. Now I request the students of the
Okay,
University
ask
of Fine Arts College to render the state anthem, Nadagite.
भारत जननीय तनुजाते जय हे कर्नाटक माते जय सुंदर नदी वनಗಳ ನಾಡೆ जय हे रस ऋषिಗಳ ಬೀಡೆ जय भारत जननीय तनुजाते ಜನನಿಯ ಜೋಗುಳ ವೇದದ ಘೋಷ ಜನನಿಗೆ ಜೀವವು ನಿನ್ನಾವೇಶ ಹಸುರಿನ ಗಿರಿಗಳ ಸಾಲೆ ನಿನ್ನಯ ಕೊರಳಿನ ಮಾಲೆ ಕಪಿಲ ಪತಂಜಲ ಗೌತಮ ಜಿನನುತ ಭಾರತ ಜನನಿಯ ತನುಜಾತೆ ಜಯ ಭಾರತ ಜನನಿಯ ತನುಜಾತೆ ಸರ್ವ ಜನಾಂಗದ ಶಾಂತಿಯ ತೋಟ ರಸಿಕರ ಕಣ್ಗಳ ಸೆಳೆಯುವ ನೋಟ ಹಿಂದೂ ಕ್ರೈಸ್ತ ಮುಸಲ್ಮಾನ ಪಾರಸಿಕ ಜೈನರುದ್ಯಾನ ಜನಕನ ಹೋಲುವ ದೊರೆಗಳ ಧಾಮ ಗಾಯಕ ವೈಣಿಕರ ರಾಮ ಜಯ ಭಾರತ ಜನನಿಯ ತನುಜಾತೆ ನುಡಿ ಕುಣಿದಾಡುವ ಗೇಹ ಕನ್ನಡ ತಾಯಿಯ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ದೇಹ ಜಯ ಭಾರತ ಜನನಿಯ ತನುಜಾತೆ ಜಯ ಹೇ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಮಾತೆ ಜಯ ಸುಂದರ ನದಿ ವನಗಳ ನಾಡೆ ಜಯ ಹೇ ರಸ ಋಷಿಗಳ ಬೀಡೆ ಜಯ ಭಾರತ ಜನನಿಯ ತನುಜಾತೆ ಜಯ ಹೇ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಮಾತೆ ಜಯ ಸುಂದರ ನದಿ ವನಗಳ ನಾಡೆ ಜಯ ಹೇ ರಸ ಋಷಿಗಳ ಬೀಡೆ ಜಯ ಭಾರತ
the meeting, Vice Chancellor meeting. नितिन बत्रा की आई थी.
बोलिए.
Application committee.
25 or 25 engagement.
Now our honored guest, Professor Tiruvasakam.
3 p.m. Dean's Committee.
3 p.m. Dean's Committee.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Mrs. Pankaj Mittal, Secretary General of AIU.
In Delhi, this is hybrid mode.
Thank you, Ms.
This one, 3 of the induction program.
I request our Honorable Vice Chancellor to receive the bouquet from Loknath, Director, PMVB. I request our Registrar to receive the bouquet from Chetan, Special Officer to the Vice Chancellor. Thank you, sir. Now, Deepa Prajwalan and Saraswati Vandana. That is the next item. Deepa Prajwalan and Saraswati Vandana. I request all the dignitaries, the Honorable Chief Guests and dignitaries, the Chancellor, to conduct this very auspicious program, Deep Prajwalan. And I request the students of the University of Fine Arts College to do the Saraswati Vandana.
जय जगजननी जय जय सरस्वती माई जय जय देवी जय जगजननी जय जय सरस्वती माई जय जय देवी
Please committee.
जय जय
नहीं सबको
भवानी
है।
जय शर्वाणी जय त्रिभुवन सुखदाई जय जय भवानी जय शर्वाणी जय त्रिभुवन सुखदाई तेरो ही माया अनंत अपार जाको कोई ना पाई जय जय देवी जय जगजननी जय जय सरस्वती माई जय जय देवी तेरो ही रूप भय सघ विद्या सुर नर चरण मनाई तेरो ही रूप भय सघ विद्या सुर नर चरण मनाई पद्मनाभ रूप चरण
हेलो।
सरोरुह
हाँ।
सेवक
आज बताता हूँ आज हो गया।
मन बाई जय जय देवी जय जगजननी जय जय
किस पे भेजा है?
सरस्वती माई
ठीक है।
जय जय देवी
हाँ ठीक है, मैं भिजवा रहा हूँ आज उसकी मीटिंग होगी। ठीक है। हाँ अच्छा
Thank you, dear students, for rendering the Saraswati Vandana very,
हाँ।
very soulfully. Dr. Mrs. Pankaj Mittal,
किस पे भेजा है?
Secretary General of the Association
ठीक है,
of
मैं
Indian
देखता हूँ।
Universities, AIU, is the second woman Secretary General of the association in its 96 years of existence. Dr. Mittal is a Fulbright scholar, having wide-ranging experience of more than 3 decades in higher education, in policy planning and management of higher education. She was the first Vice Chancellor of Bhagat Phul Singh Mahila Vishwavidyalaya, Kanpur, the first rural women university of North India in 2008. Dr. Pankaj Mittal is a much-traveled academic and has been honored by several organizations. She is closer to Karnataka as she has been conferred the honorary doctorate honoris causa from Karnataka State Women's University, Bijapur. I request Dr. Mrs. Pankaj Mittal to deliver the welcome address and present the theme of the conference.
Thank you very much. His Excellency, the Honorable Vice President of India, Shri M. Venkaiah Naidu ji, who will be joining shortly. Honorable Governor of Karnataka, Shri Thawar Chand Gehlot ji. Honorable President of AIU, Dr. G. Thirubasagam ji. Honorable Vice Chancellor of University of Mysore, Professor G. Hemant Kumar ji. Registrar of the University of Mysore. Past presidents of AIU, we have with us Professor D.S. Chauhan and Professor P.V. Sharma here. Distinguished chairpersons and speakers of all the technical sessions, representative of apex bodies and international delegates. We have Dr. Bhola Thapa with us, who is from Kathmandu University. esteemed vice chancellors of various universities, both present as well as former, who have come here from far off places all over the country, faculty members of University of Mysore, the students who are sitting here, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all to the 96th Annual General Meet of AIU and National Seminar of Vice Chancellors. At the outset, I would like to thank the University of Mysore for hosting the 96th Annual General Meet and National Seminar of Vice Chancellors on a very important theme, realizing sustainable development goals through higher education institutions. We are grateful for the hospitality and excellent arrangements made by the university. Mysore also creates nostalgic movement for us because this was the place where 97 years back, AIU was formed in 1925. So in Mysore, AIU was formed. And in fact, AIU functioned from the campus of Mysore University from 1932 to 1937. So therefore, we are very honored to have our annual general conference in Mysore universities. I welcome the Honorable Vice President of India, Shri M. Venkaiah Naidu ji, who is joining through virtual mode to inaugurate this meet. Shri Naidu ji, as you all know, is a very well-read person and very passionate about the education in India. We are grateful to you, sir, for having agreed to inaugurate the meet as a chief guest. We welcome the Honorable Governor of Karnataka, Shri Thawar Chand Gehlot ji, who is amongst us for the inaugural program. He is the 19th Governor of Karnataka and the first from Madhya Pradesh to serve as the Governor of Karnataka. He has earlier served as the Minister of Social Justice and Empowerment in the Government of India. We welcome you, sir, for gracing this occasion. On behalf of AIU, I would like to welcome the Vice Chancellor of Mysore University, Professor Hemant Kumar ji, and his entire team, and also thank him for hosting the event on behalf of Association of Indian Universities. I welcome Professor G. Thirubasagam, sir. He is the Honorable President of AIU and has been a constant source of inspiration for all of us. I welcome the past presidents of AIU who are present here. Professor P.B. Sharma is there, Professor D.S. Chauhan is there. We welcome the distinguished chairpersons and speakers of all the technical session, heads of the apex bodies and international delegates who are here from ACU and University of Kathmandu, and some would be joining virtually. A hearty welcome to all the vice chancellors who have come here from all over the country to participate in the deliberations. Without all of you, this meet would not have been possible. So we welcome you from the core of our heart. We also welcome Ambassador T.S. Trimurti, who is the permanent representative of United Nations, permanent representative of India to United Nations, who will be delivering the AIU Foundation Day lecture just after the inaugural speech. So thanks, Professor Trimurti. A hearty welcome to one and all. As you all know, that the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals are to be realized by 2030. We just have 8 years left with us to realize these goals. At present, India stands at 120th rank. 120th rank in the SDG report 2021 towards realizing these SDGs. It is therefore important that India takes some serious measures to accelerate the pace of their implementation. Therefore, Association of Indian Universities felt that more than 1,000 universities, more than 45,000 colleges, which are catering to around 38 million students in India, can contribute a lot in realizing SDGs, and not only SDG 4, which relates to quality education, but all the 17 SDGs by way of conducting research on all the 17 SDGs, by way of sensitizing the students, faculty, and the staff, and accordingly their parents, by practicing SDGs at their own campuses, and also doing impact surveys of various schemes launched by the government for realizing these SDGs. Therefore, we dedicated the complete year 2021-22 to the implementation of SDGs through the higher education institutions. We held 5 zonal BC meets on different SDGs, where we clubbed 4 for SDGs, and there's a different zonal meets. And in the national conference, we'll be discussing all the 17 SDGs and come out with a report which will be sent to United Nations. Government of India, regulatory bodies and universities, giving recommendation on what ought to be done by these agencies for realizing the SDGs at a faster pace. Seeing the importance of the theme of the conference, the United Nations itself has collaborated with AIU for all the 5 zonal as well as the main conference. The United Nations is the collaborating partner for this particular conference. I'm sure government as well as the universities will find these recommendations very useful. I once again thank the University of Mysore for hosting this conference and welcome you all to AIU National VC Conference of AIU being conducted on a very, very timely and important theme. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Madam, for introducing the theme of the conference. Colonel Dr. G. Tiruvasagam is the Vice Chancellor of AMET University, Chennai. He is serving as the President of the Association of Indian Universities. He has visited many major countries of the world and has interacted with the authorities and scientists in their universities and their industries. We are sure the Association of Indian Universities is gaining by his wisdom and experience. Now I request Colonel Dr. G. Tiruvasagam to deliver his address.
His Excellency, the Vice President of India, Sri Venkaiah Naidu ji, who is going to join very shortly. Your Excellency, the Governor of Karnataka State, Sri Dhanwar Chand Geolat, Honorable Vice Chancellor of this esteemed University of Mysore, Sri Hemant Kumar ji, beloved and respected Dr. Pankaj Mittal, Secretary General of Association of Indian Universities, Honorable Vice President of AAU, Dr. Swatan Das, respected Registrar of this University, Professor Shivappa, Honorable Vice Chancellors of various universities of India, most respected past Presidents of AAU and Governing Council members of the Association of Indian Universities, and other participants on the dais and off the dais. Good morning to every one of you. Friends, already the speech of President has been circulated to all of you in the form of a booklet. I have been given only 4 minutes, so I have to summarize everything. Please allow me to bring out you few highlights of my speech. As I stand before you to deliver this presidential address of the Association of Indian Universities as its 100th president, I am humbled by thoughts of the long history, rich traditions, and significant contributions made by our association towards the progress and development of higher education of India. I am delighted to join with the academic leaders of the India in extending sincere thanks to Professor G. Hemanta Kumar, the Vice Chancellor of the 106 years old University of Mysore, for hosting this national conference of AAU. It's pleasure indeed to have the conference as set amidst this beautiful historical temple of Mysore, which was built by Sri Krishnamaraja Udayar III in 17th century. Having been Vice Chancellor of 16 years, I have assumed office as President with a strong intention and the certitude that I can make a contribution to the progress of Indian higher education system. As you are well aware, I took over the President of AAU at the height of COVID-19 pandemic.
Sorry to disturb you. You have 7 minutes, sir, not 4 minutes.
Thank you.
Please.
Thanks for extension of time. Thank you. I took it over as a President of the AAU at the height of COVID-19 pandemic, which was affected the normal functioning of all the education institutions around the world. Despite the restrictions, During this 1 year period, I have tried to ensure that the activities of the association continue unabated and with the same zeal and spirit. While the achievements of AAU in 2021-22, I would like to share a few highlights with you. Several committees were constituted to examine the major issues encountered by the universities and vice chancellors. They are National Education Policy 2020 Implementation Committee, Ranking, Rating, Grading and Accreditation Committee, Students Welfare Committee, Disabled Welfare Committee, Consultancy, Incubation and Entrepreneurship Committee, Bylaw Revision Committee. These reports will be submitted to the Ministry of Education and the chairpersons of the concerned apex bodies like University Grants Commission, AICTE, NAC, NARF, and the copies will be handed over during the conference as well. The present building of AAU at New Delhi is very old, needs a major overhaul. Visiting vice chancellors and other dignitaries also recommended renovating the premises, and therefore the renovation of the building is being undertaken with a budget of rupees 5 crores. The renovation work will be completed within another 6 months, after which the visiting vice chancellors will have comfortable stay in the guest house and the university can have their meetings in the upcoming state-of-the-art conference facilities which are going to come at AAU. Realizing the growing importance of internalization of higher education, the AAU has taken initiative to establish Indian Network for Internalization of Higher Education, a consortium of potential universities committed to promote the internalization of higher education. To further this goal, the AAU is going to publish an international standard research journal, AAU International Journal for Research and Public Policies, from April 2022. The AAU has instituted as a token of recognition and appreciation of the faculty and students several new accolades and honors, including AAU awards and certificates in the name of Dr. Radhakrishnan Award to the best teacher researcher in each university, AAU awards and certificate to the teacher who has published an article with the highest impact factor of each university, AAU Best PhD Thesis Award, AAU Best Student Award, AAU Best Sportsperson Award. Then come to the theme of the conference of Sustainable Development Goals. It's not a compulsion, it's only an option as well, right now before us. As narrated in her address, Dr. Pankaj Mittal, we have to pay much attention in our education institutions, which is going to give you a fruitful research, not only to our India, but also globally as well. In 2015, the Department of Economics and Social Affairs of United Nations shared a blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet, now into the future. This blueprint was adopted by all United Nations member states in 2015. As its heart are the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which are an urgent call for action of all countries developed and developing in global partnership. They recognize that ending poverty and other deprivations must go hand in hand in strategies that improve health and education, reduce inequality, and spur economic growth, all while tackling climate change and working to preserve our oceans and forests. My dear friends, what is the role to be played by higher education institutions like us? The colleges and universities are expected to contribute not only to their local communities, but also to the global community as well. What better way to do so them to advocate for governments to keep their commitments to implement these 17 goals and to contribute to the body of knowledge around the SDGs. Additionally, universities are expected to instill their graduates with a well-rounded education and global awareness. The SDGs framework models a systematic approach for students understand that success in addressing issues they are passionate about depends on success in addressing other issues including on their own campuses, institutional partnership within universities, and facilitate engagement with the government and communities at different levels to achieve SDGs as described below. My dear friends, universities have the capacity to generate, translate, and now bell has come. I have a lot of things about national education policy, okay, and many other things as well. You have to say few words on it. In July last year, India unveiled the first and most comprehensive education policy of 21st century. And there are a lot of challenges. The last 17 months since eventful launch, NEP has moved some ground in terms of meeting on key milestones. These are all the challenges we have to meet out. And all these challenges I have mentioned in my speech, which has been given to you. Two more issues I want to stress in this meeting. Autonomy of the universities. Autonomy is highly essential for higher education institutions to achieve excellence, as it's offer greater scope for creativity and innovation in all its spheres. And my dear friends, unless we have autonomy, I can be very frank with you, whatever way we get guidelines from University Grants Commission, it is highly difficult for us to implement the national education policy as it is given in the policy itself. Finally, we Vice Chancellors are committed to ensure quality higher education by promoting effective academic and research ecosystem in India. We want flexibility and freedom in the higher education system. Moreover, we are very serious to take forward NEP 2020 by adopting the regulations notification of its bodies. Okay. We are delighted to see the newly appointed chairman UGC, Professor Mavidala Jagadish Kumar, is a proactive, dynamic, and participative decision maker. He is very keen in translating NEP 2020 in the form of regulations notifications, which are our long-term expectations. Dear Vice Chancellors, each one of us present here are convinced, committed towards achieving the goals, ensuring that quality and excellence are at the forefront of sustainable in Indian higher education and will remain there for centuries to come. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. I may be kindly be pardoned because we are orienting ourselves to the arrival of the Honorable Vice President of India on screen. So I may be pardoned for this intervention. And also we are getting to welcome the Honorable Governor a little later. Now, release of two publications, University News, a journal of higher education, and a book titled Implementing National Education Policy 2020, a Roadmap, edited by Dr. Pankaj Mithal and Dr. S. Ramadevi Pani. Now, I request all the dignitaries to do the office. I request the Honorable Governor to release these two publications. University News, a journal of higher education, and a book, Implementing National Education Policy 2020, a Roadmap. The editors have been Dr. Pankaj Mithal and Dr. S. Ramadevi Pani. Thank you, sirs and madams. This is the University News, a journal of higher education. Thank you, sirs and madams. As the Governor of Karnataka and also as the Chancellor of the universities, Dr. Thawarchand Gehlot has endeared himself to both the general public and the academia. His long experience in public life has enabled him to acquire the maturity and vision of an elder statesman. I request the Honorable Governor to deliver a speech.
इस समारोह में वर्चुअल माध्यम से उपस्थित भारत के उपराष्ट्रपति आदरणीय एम वेंकैया नायडू जी, मैसूर विश्वविद्यालय के वाइस चांसलर श्री जी हेमंत कुमार जी, AIU के अध्यक्ष कर्नल डॉक्टर जी तिरुवासगम जी, AIU की जनरल सेक्रेटरी डॉक्टर श्रीमती पंकज मित्तल जी, मैसूर विश्वविद्यालय के रजिस्ट्रार श्री R शिवप्पा जी, देश के विभिन्न विश्वविद्यालयों से पधारे हुए उपकुलपतिगण, कुलपतिगण, सम्माननीय अतिथि गण एवं मीडिया के सदस्यगण, मैं आप सबका इस कार्यक्रम में हार्दिक स्वागत करता हूं, अभिनंदन करता हूं। आपको इस बात की जानकारी होगी कि यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ मैसूर 1916 में स्थापित हुई थी और लगातार 105 वर्षों से अधिक समय से शिक्षा के क्षेत्र में उच्चतम स्थान पर सेवाएं दे रही है। निश्चित रूप से आज के इस AGM बैठक में और सम्मेलन में जिन विषयों पर आप चर्चा करने वाले हैं, उन विषयों पर विचार विमर्श करके अच्छा निष्कर्ष निकालने का अवसर होगा और उसका लाभ देश के शिक्षा जगत को मिलेगा। सरकार को भी आपके निष्कर्षों पर विचार विमर्श करके शिक्षा नीति को और मजबूत बनाने का अवसर मिलेगा। आप सब जानते हैं कि हमारा देश ज्ञान और विज्ञान और व्यवहारिक शिक्षा के कारण विश्व गुरु कहलाता रहा है। आज भी इसकी महती आवश्यकता है और आपके विचार विमर्श से जो निष्कर्ष निकलेंगे, निश्चित रूप से उस पर अमल करने से यह देश शिक्षा के क्षेत्र में फिर से विश्व गुरु होगा। 21वीं सदी भारत की सदी होगी, ऐसा मेरा विश्वास है। सामाजिक आर्थिक परिवर्तन करके समाज को आत्मनिर्भर बनाने, सामाजिक समानता, समृद्धि, उत्कृष्टता, सशक्तिकरण, उद्यमिता और ज्ञानोदय के लिए सभी को मूल्यवान शिक्षा हेतु राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति 2020 तैयार की गई है। मेरे मत में आप इन विषयों पर भी विचार विमर्श करेंगे और इसके अनुरूप कौशल और मूल्य आधारित समग्र बहुविषयक शिक्षा प्रदान करने के संबंध में दिशा निर्देश प्रदान करेंगे। वैश्विक स्तर पर किसी भी व्यवसाय या उद्योग को सफल बनाने के लिए विशेषज्ञों की आवश्यकता होती है। ऐसे विशेषज्ञों को तैयार करने के लिए पाठ्यक्रम उच्च कोटि के हो, इस प्रकार की आवश्यकता है। उन पाठ्यक्रमों को उसी समर्पित भाव से पढ़ाने वाले शिक्षा संस्थान और शिक्षा जगत के सभी महानुभाव हो, इस प्रकार के प्रयास की आवश्यकता है। इस पर भी आप विचार विमर्श करके अपने सुझाव देंगे। बच्चों एवं युवाओं को भविष्य की सही राह दिखाने और देश में समावेशी विकास को बढ़ावा देने के लिए यह आवश्यक है कि शिक्षा क्षेत्र में प्रौद्योगिकी को बढ़ावा दिया जाए, शिक्षकों के प्रशिक्षण की व्यवस्था की जाए, समावेशी शिक्षा प्रणाली पर जोर दिया जाए, गुणवत्तापूर्ण शिक्षा को बढ़ावा दिया जाए, शिक्षा मानवीय और सद्विचार पर चलने के लिए प्रेरणादायी हो, इस प्रकार की व्यवस्था की जाना चाहिए। और मैं सोचता हूं कि आप इन सब बिंदुओं को ध्यान में रख करके विचार विमर्श करेंगे। भारत सरकार द्वारा 2015 में अपनाए गए सतत विकास एजेंडा अनुसार 2030 तक सभी के लिए समावेशी और समान गुणवत्ता युक्त शिक्षा सुनिश्चित करने और जीवन पर्यंत शिक्षा के अवसरों को बढ़ावा दिए जाने का लक्ष्य है। हम सब जानते हैं कि नित्य नई नई विकासिक योजनाएं हमारे सामने आती है और उनका अध्ययन जरूरी है। हमको हर समय एक विद्यार्थी के रूप में उनको सीखने का प्रयास करते रहना चाहिए। देश के विकास में सहभागी बनाने के लिए युवाओं को ज्ञान और प्रौद्योगिकी नवीनतम विधाओं से परिचित कराने की आवश्यकता है, जिससे यह आसपास के प्रावधानों और अपनी कार्यदक्षता का उपयोग कर स्वरोजगार और प्रेरित होकर देश के विकास में अपना योगदान दे सके। युवाओं को कुशल बनाकर हम वोकल फॉर लोकल की दिशा में आगे बढ़ सकते हैं। आत्मनिर्भर भारत बनाने के लिए युवाओं को स्किलिंग अप, स्किलिंग व रीस्किलिंग पर फोकस करना अत्यंत महत्वपूर्ण है। मैं मेरी शुभकामनाएं देता हूं कि इस सम्मेलन में इन सब विषयों पर विचार विमर्श किया जाएगा और सही और अच्छे निष्कर्ष हमारे सामने आएंगे, ताकि शिक्षा जगत में भारत विश्व में सिरमौर हो सके। इसी आशा और विश्वास के साथ आदरणीय उपराष्ट्रपति जी लाइन पर हैं। मैं अधिक समय नहीं लेना चाहता हूं। आप सबको हार्दिक बधाई देता हूं, शुभकामनाएं देता हूं। आपके उज्जवल भविष्य की कामना करते हुए अपनी बात समाप्त करता हूं। धन्यवाद। जय हिंद, जय भारत।
Thank you very much, sir. The Honorable Vice President of India, Shri Venkaiah Naidu ji, has joined us, and he will be delivering his speech online after the introduction by our respected Vice Chancellor, Professor G. Hemant Kumar.
ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. Very good morning to you all. Honorable Vice President of India, Shri M. Venkaiah Naidu, Honorable Governor and Chancellor Shri Thawarchand Gehlot, President of Association of Indian Universities, Dr. G. Thiruvasagam, Secretary General of AAU, Dr. Mrs. Pankaj Mittal, members of the Syndicate, Academic Council members, Vice Chancellors of the various universities, all our former Vice Chancellors of our university, I am invited dignitaries and media persons. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome the dignitaries and all the guests to this audience. Before that, I will say a few words about the path our illustrious university has traversed in the cause of education during last 105 years. History is nothing but the trajectory of the march of ideas. It is the ideas that has been molded the human society from its infancy onwards. The intellectual leaders have played their part in guiding us and maintain the most precious gift to the humanity, namely learning and education. This conference represents the confluence of academic administrators drawn from the length and breadth of the country. I must thank Association of Indian Universities for felicitating and the historic gathering of intellectuals in the city of Mysore. The Association of Indian University is a registered body basically formed to promote and represent higher education system on national and international forums. Thus, AIU is doing the human service. The University of Mysore is working in tune with the guidance given by the founding fathers, whose motto was to take the cause of learning to the doorsteps of the common people, apart from the serving of higher education. We are giving equal attention to both science and humanities. We are seeing the advantages of the balanced approach. I have a pleasant duty of welcoming the dignitaries. Honorable Vice President of India, Shri M. Venkaiah Naidu ji has rich experience in public life, serving in many portfolios as distinguished Union Minister. As the Union Minister of Urban Development and Information Broadcasting, he has set a few benchmarks. As Vice President of India from 2017 till the date, Shri Venkaiah Naidu ji has lent dignity to the office and is a true leader of the society. He is leading in front of the people in large and guiding the people. An orator of rare kind, Shri Venkaiah Naidu ji enlightens every audience with wit and humor and accompanied by the words of the wisdom. I take this opportunity to welcome Honorable Vice President Shri M. Venkaiah Naidu ji, the Honorable Vice President of India, to this inaugural session to deliver the address online. The Honorable Governor of Karnataka, Shri Thawarchand Gehlot, is serving in the state since 11th July 2021, and he has been already endeared himself to the people of Karnataka by his noble qualities. He has served as the Minister of Social Justice and Empowerment from 2014 to 2021 as the leader of House in the upper house. Dr. Thawarchand Gehlot has showed a wisdom in the discussion and the issues with calmness and assurance. He has been awarded as a honorary doctorate by B.R. Ambedkar University of Social Sciences. From 1996 to 2009, he is the Member of Parliament representing in Madhya Pradesh. As the Governor of Karnataka, Shri Thawarchand Gehlot, as guiding the state with the rich experience in the public life, it is pleasure to welcome Dr. Thawarchand Gehlot, the Chancellor, for the inauguration of this conference. I welcome you, sir. Dr. Chi Tiruvasagam, the President of Association of Indian Universities, New Delhi. At present, he is also serving as Vice Chancellor of Amity University, Chennai. Indeed, it is an honor to welcome you, sir. I take this opportunity to welcome Dr. Mrs. Pankaj Mittal, the Secretary General of Association of Indian Universities. Dr. Pankaj Mittal is much accomplished academician with rich experience. I deemed it a privilege to welcome her. I welcome you, madam. I welcome all the Vice Chancellors who have traveled from far off places for the 96th annual meet and the Vice Chancellors National Conference. I welcome the invitees, syndicate and academic council members, all our former Vice Chancellors, all my colleagues of my university and the members of media. I once again extend warm welcome to the dignitaries on the dais and off the dais. Thanking you all.
Thank you, sir. The Honorable Vice President of India is a rare luminary of a rare kind who enlightens audiences with wit, humor, and oratorical brilliance, as recalled by our Honorable Vice Chancellor. His association with Karnataka has been a long-standing one. This All India Conference of Vice Chancellors will gain immensely by his guidance and enlightening counsel. I request the Honorable Vice President of India to address the conference.
Honorable Governor of Karnataka, Sri Tawarchand Gadhodji, Vice Chancellors, Senior Academic Faculty, distinguished dignitaries, and all others who have all joined this conference today. Friends, it is my pleasure to indeed to address such a distinguished galaxy of intellectuals who are the academic captains of our country. I was informed that along with the Vice Chancellors, the executive heads of apex bodies in higher education and senior academic faculty members of Indian universities have also congregated to discuss and deliberate on crucial issues like sustainable development goals in this meet. Before I share my views, let me compliment each one of you for being part of this meet organized by the Association of Indian Universities. It is heartening to note that this prestigious organization is one of the oldest flagship bodies of universities in the world. It is also a matter of delight that stalwarts like Dr. Shyam Prasad Mukherjee, Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishna, Dr. Zakir Hussain, Dr. A.L. Madriyar, and many more eminent educationists and astute statesmen adorned this organization as presidents. Today, when AU is celebrating its 96th Foundation Day, I deem it an honor to address you all on how the Indian education institutions can play a vital role in realizing the sustainable development goals set by the United Nations. As you are all aware, the United Nations have set this sustainable development goal comprising 17 sustainable development goals was signed by most countries more than 7 years ago. The recent United Nations report indicates that the progress achieved in these goals is uneven and that more needs to be done. According to the 21 report, 3 Nordic countries, Finland, Sweden, and Denmark, top the list. Countries like Germany, Australia, and UK and Spain are in the top 20. And in the list, India is in the 120th position. This is a matter that has to be taken seriously. We must remember the fact that saving the planet ought to be a collective effort of all countries. We can ill afford to lose sight of the relevance of the adage, Vasudhaika Kutumbakam, in this context. India is the second largest population. It is one of the critical countries where the achievements of the Sustainable Development Goals will be essential to realize the 2030 agenda in the next decade. Poverty and illiteracy are challenges we need to surmount as a society in our quest to achieve sustainable development goals. Other factors which are hindering our march towards the progress: child malnutrition, gender inequality, equitable access to safe water, and environmental pollution. Thus, there is a long road ahead that needs to traverse to achieve the SDG Agenda 2030. Niti Aayog has created a national framework to work towards achieving these goals. The Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation is assisting Niti Aayog, interacting with other ministries and developing indicators on SDG goals and targets. As is evident, achieving these goals is not the responsibility of any particular organization, ministry, or government. It needs a concerted effort from all stakeholders, including civil society, industries, NGOs, and most importantly, our educational institutions. The contribution of educational institutions is of critical importance. Primary, secondary, and higher education institutions need to be consciously adopt practices that lead to the achievement of SDGs. Colleges and universities have a bigger role to play in this regard. It's very key for this achieving these goals. They can contribute in a number of ways, such as research, policy development, and engagement with societies for creating awareness and effective implementation of sustainable development strategies, apart from preparing students for the challenges of the 21st century. As you are all aware, India's higher education sector is the third largest in the world. It is a throbbing educational hub with around 1,050 universities, more than 10,000 professional technical institutes, and 42,343 colleges in both the public and private sector. If all our higher education institutions come forward to contribute towards the accomplishment of goals, our achievement will be very significant and it will make a major impact on the overall world scenario. Unfortunately, so far, most of the higher education institutions have remained almost disconnected in the SDG Agenda 2030. When it comes to integration of the SDGs in the operation of higher education institutions, we still have a long way to go. So I congratulate the Association of Indian Universities and its president, Dr. Tiruvasagam, and other members for taking this initiative in conducting these brainstorming sessions in this seminar towards realizing these SDG goals. My dear Vice Chancellors and distinguished gurus, as you are all aware, India has a glorious past. Knowledge generation, application, and dissemination to the world. The existence of universities like Nalanda, Takshashila, Vikramshila, Vallabhi, and Vadanpuri in ancient India bear ample testimony to the fact that India had an age-old tradition of education and learning which has made it Vasvaguru at one time. The essence of the ancient knowledge systems of India in the form of Vedas and Upanishads, Puranas, Itihas, among others, the greatness of Indian culture and the traditional lifestyle of Indians have been passed on from generation to generation till today. The versatility of our knowledge systems and culture and their enduring significance make them relevant forever. For example, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha, the most popular prayer of Indians in which we pray God to keep all beings happy, would be an everlasting wish of all individuals and society. Today, India stands poised on the threshold of a world of historic responsibilities and opportunities. It is now one of the emerging superpowers with improved education, development of resources and jobs, better infrastructure and healthcare, among others. The NEP, the New Education Policy, is a foresighted document which is bound to transform the educational landscape of our country. Its recommendations are aligned with the SDGs, and its scope and vision encompasses complete overhauling of the Indian education system from pre-primary to higher education, and along with curriculum reform to institutional reform in a phased manner. We need to overhaul our education system. I am certain that implementation of this policy and in letter and spirit will help us to achieve the SDG agenda. As I understand, there will be discussion on all the SDGs in various sessions, which will primarily address the role of colleges and universities in giving an impetus to the larger objective of accomplishing SDGs. Exchange of ideas, knowing from others' experience, that is very vital. Besides, I learned that there will be a stock taking of global progress towards achieving these goals. It is important to share knowledge, as I was telling, highlight success stories and good practices. At the same time, it is also important to identify areas of concern and challenges and suggest the way forward in terms of action for higher education institutions, government, and other stakeholders. A welcome aspect, this particular aspect, is that it points for higher education institutions. They will cover in all the three dimensions: teaching, research, and community development. Let me share another deep-seated wish of mine, that is to see Indian universities ranked among the top 10 universities of the world. That is the wish of the people of India. All universities should set higher standards in academic excellence, including research, knowledge creation, and focus on infrastructure development while ensuring equitable access to education. I also feel that private sector also has got a bigger role. We must promote public-private partnership. Government alone cannot do this. So it is also the duty of private sector to join this endeavor. I also congratulate the AIU for its 96 years of successful journey and convey my best wishes for all the future endeavors. As I told you, my dear friends, we have a great challenge. And all of us must join together to face that challenge and again make India as Vishwaguru once again. That should be our endeavor. I wish you all the best. Parliament is in session, so I have to go to Parliament. That's why I'm not able to spend much of the time. Thank you very much. Namaskar. Jai Hind.
Ladies and gentlemen, as expected, the Honorable Vice President of India has made many pertinent points regarding higher education, which is expected to accomplish certain goals, especially his clarion call to Indianize education is very well taken. We are indeed grateful to you, sir, for your wise counsel. Thank you very much, sir. Professor R. Shiwappa, the Registrar of the University of Mysore, is an expert in social work with an special orientation towards community participation in rural development. A fellowship from Denmark in the year 2000 was a turning point which catapulted him to a higher realm of scholastic pursuit, and he has never looked back ever since. I request our beloved Registrar, Professor R. Shiwappa, to propose a vote of thanks.
A very good morning on this special day for all of us in our esteemed great university. It is a great pleasure, honor to propose vote of thanks to all the dignitaries on the dais, off the dais, and also who are actively watching this special program online from all over India. First and foremost, I express my sincere thanks to Shri M. Venkaiah Naidu ji, Honorable Vice President of India, for his thought-provoking, inspiring, motivating, guiding speech. Indeed, it is a historical and highly significant in the context of University of Mysore and Association of Indian Universities and for all of us. So on behalf of Association of Indian Universities and University of Mysore, I sincerely thank highly respected Honorable Vice President Shri M. Venkaiah Naidu ji. Pranams to you, sir. Honorable Governor of Karnataka, Shri Tawarchand Gehlot ji, has blessed and addressed all of us, which was direction showing and visionary from the point of view of higher education in India. My sincere thanks to Honorable Governor sir, on behalf of Association of Indian Universities and University of Mysore and all of us. I express my sincere thanks to the President, who happens to be 100th President of the Association of Indian Universities, Colonel Dr. G. Tiruvasagam sir, for his speech, which has highlighted the issues, concerns of all the universities in India, which was very much relevant. Thank you very much, sir. My sincere thanks to our beloved, respected Professor G. Hemant Kumar sir, who is a 25th VC of our esteemed 106 years old university. He has brought glory to the University of Mysore by starting a College of Engineering in the University of Mysore and played a pivotal role in the implementation of New Education Policy 2020. Sir is untiringly working towards upgrading the University of Mysore from all respects, infrastructure, academics, and career advancement of both teaching and non-teaching fraternity in the University of Mysore. Thank you. Thank you, sir, for your great inspirational speech and leading us for a betterment of the university. Madam Dr. Pankaj Mittal, who is the Secretary General of Association of Indian Universities. From the very beginning, Dr. Mittal is involved in organizing, coordinating, at each and every stage along with the University of Mysore, especially with our highly committed Professor N.K. Loknath, Director PMEB, who is coordinating this 96th annual meet of Association of Indian Universities and National Conference of VCs. In fact, Dr. Mittal was very keen and having concern for each and every detail of the conference to make this annual meet and conference a grand success. Thank you very much, Madam. Thanks to all the Honorable Vice Chancellors who are present over here and also on the virtual mode during this annual meet of Association of Indian Universities and National Conference of VCs, for whom this whole program is meant. Thanking you all, respected Vice Chancellors from all over India. I express my sincere thanks to all the staff of officers at Association of Indian Universities and University of Mysore, especially VC Secretariat. I would like to thank Dr. H.K. Chetan for having taken the lead role in organizing this conference. My thanks to all the members of authorities, syndicate and academic council, deans of all the faculties, directors of all the post-graduation centers, chairpersons of all the post-graduation departments, professors and principals of all constituent colleges who are present here and also on virtual mode. My sincere thanks to all the media persons, print, digital, social media, for their constant, encouraging, positive support, coverage of news from time to time. I respectfully thank the team who presented National Anthem and Nadagite. Last but not the least, I thank the program compeer, Professor C. Nagarna, who is a well-known scholar, poet and literary critic. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you one and all. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
National Anthem. Gentlemen, the Honorable Vice President of India leaves now, even as the Honorable Governor and other dignitaries on the dais depart from this hall. Kindly keep standing while the dignitaries leave the hall. And then I have an important announcement to make. Immediately after the inaugural function, there is a group photo for the Vice Chancellors of India in front of the hall. After the photograph, please come back for the Foundation Day lecture by Sri Tirumurti at 10:40 exactly. So please join for the photograph in front of the hall and then come back for the Foundation Day lecture. There will be a tea break at 11:30 a.m. This is for your kind information. Tea break at 11:30. Now you join the photograph in front of the Crawford Hall, this very hall. Only the vice chancellors will go for the photo session. The others are requested to stay back. Kindly be seated. I request all of you to kindly be seated. The vice chancellors will go and join the photo session. Immediately, the foundation lecture will be delivered by Sri Tirumurthy, the permanent representative of India on UN, United Nations. I request the students to stay put. Please stay wherever you are. The foundation lecture will begin. Don't scatter away. Please be there. we are going to witness the Foundation Day lecture being delivered by Sri Tirumurti, the permanent representative of the United Nations. And now I request Professor, on the stage, you may have Professor Upinder Dhar, Vice Chancellor Sri Vaishnav Vidyapith, Indore. We have Professor Paramjit Jaswal, Vice Chancellor SRM University, Sonipat, Dr. Jagannath Patnaik, Vice Chancellor ICFAI University, Sikkim, Professor Sitaram Rao, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University, Hyderabad, and our own Vice Chancellor is yet to be here on stage. Along with them is Dr. Pankaj Mittal, the Secretary General of the great organization. Now, before much ado, I request Professor Upinder Dhar, Vice Chancellor Sri Vaishnav Vidyapith, Indore, to introduce the speaker of the day to all of us. Over to you, sir, Professor Dhar. I'm extremely sorry, sir. The president of AIU is very much here. In the morning also, because of some kind of disorientation that we all of us experienced because of the august presence of the Vice President of India online, I had to intervene and rearrange the time of the speech as directed by the Governor of Karnataka. And Professor Vasagam's introduction was very, very epitomized. I feel guilty about it because of the paucity of time, sir. Thank you. Over to Professor Upinder Dhar.
President of AIU, Dr. G. Thiruvasagamji, Dr. Pankaj Mittal, my fellow Governing Council members, illustrious past presidents, Professor P.V. Sharma and Professor D.S. Chauhan, all vice chancellors sitting in the August gathering, and students. It's my privilege to introduce and welcome Ambassador T.S. Tirumurti, permanent representative of India to the United Nations. Ambassador Tirumurti is a career Indian diplomat with extensive multilateral experience. Since joining the US in 1985, he has represented the country's interests in various capacities. Prior to taking over his current assignment in May 2020 as the permanent representative of India to the United Nations in New York, Ambassador Tirumurti was the secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs, handling the economic relations portfolio since February 2018, which included inter alia, Gulf and the Arab world, Africa, and India's development partnership. Ambassador T.S. Tirumurti previously served at the Indian Embassy in Cairo, Egypt, and at the Permanent Mission of India in Geneva, Switzerland. He was also the first Indian representative to the Palestinian Authority in Gaza and later counselor at the Indian Embassy in Washington, D.C., United States. He was Deputy Chief of Mission at the Indian Embassy in Jakarta, Indonesia, and India's High Commissioner to Malaysia. Ambassador Tirumurthy served as Under Secretary Bhutan, Director Foreign Secretary's Office, Joint Secretary Myanmar and Maldives, and Joint Secretary, United Nations Economic and Social Department. During his stints at the Ministry of External Affairs in New Delhi. He is currently also the chair of Counter-Terrorism Committee of the United Nations Security Council for the year 2022. Ambassador Tirumurthy has bachelor's degrees in commerce and law. He is also the author of 3 books. As we can see from the short profile, Ambassador Tirumurthy is a man of wide experience and superior intellect. Ladies and gentlemen, it will be a great pleasure to listen to him today. With these words, I would like to invite Ambassador Tirumurthy to deliver the AIU Foundation lecture. Thank you. Over to Ambassador Tirumurthy.
Good morning to all of you. Distinguished dignitaries on the dais. Colonel Dr. G. Tiruvasagam, President of the AIU. Dr. Mrs. Pankaj Mittal, Secretary General of the AIU. Professor Upinder Dhar, Vice Chancellor of Shri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Indore. Professor G. Hemanta Kumar, Vice Chancellor, Mysore University. Dr. Alok Mishra, Joint Secretary of the AIU. Distinguished Vice Chancellors and educationists, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a singular honor to deliver the Foundation Day lecture of the Association of Indian Universities at the 96th Annual General Meet and National Seminar of Vice Chancellors at the University of Mysore. At the outset, allow me to acknowledge the trailblazing role which the Association of Indian Universities has played over the decades as the premier apex higher education institution. All of us have benefited by AIU in one way or another, which includes overseas universities from other countries as well. I commend the tremendous service which AIU is rendering to promote the vision of sustainable education. I'm also delighted that this meeting is being held in another premier academic institution of India, the University of Mysore. My intention today is to give you an overview of India's journey in the United Nations, especially in the UN Security Council in recent years. The last 2 years has been particularly significant in the context of India's presence in the UN. We celebrated the 75th anniversary of the UN last year. And this year, we are celebrating the 75th anniversary of India's independence. And in this period, India was elected to the UN Security Council for the 8th time for a 2-year term, 2021-2022. The 75th anniversary of the United Nations has a special resonance for India. Not many realize that even before we gained independence, India was among the founding signatories of the UN Charter at the historic San Francisco Conference in 1945. It was Sir Arcot Ramasamy Mudaliar and Sir V.T. Krishnamachari who signed this charter in June 1945 on behalf of British India and of the princely states, respectively. India has had many distinguished luminaries, including women, who have made tremendous contribution to shape the UN in its initial years. This included Sir Ramasamy Mudaliar himself, who had the unique distinction of serving as the first president of the United Nations Economic and Social Council, the ECOSOC. Srimati Vijayalakshmi Pandit was the first woman to serve as the president of the General Assembly. We had other luminaries like Dr. Hansa Mehta, Srimati Lakshmi Menon, Begum Sharifa Hamid Ali, etc., who played a pioneering role in shaping some of the agenda of the United Nations. What is equally important for us to keep in mind is that when we look at India's journey in the United Nations, we not only spoke for India, but also for all developing countries, long before some of them even secured their own independence. In many ways, we were the voice of the developing world. Until today, we continue to be the voice of the developing world. While United Nations is coming for criticism, especially in the recent past, let us not forget that the United Nations has been a major force in ensuring that multilateralism is firmly entrenched and international issues are decided in a world governed by UN Charter, conventions, agreements, and rules among member states. Over the years, some of the major achievements include decolonization, combating apartheid, environment-related conventions, especially climate change, sustainable development goals, development initiatives, gender-related issues, focus on human rights, etc. As is sometimes pointed out, the world before the United Nations had multipolarity, but not multilateralism. And it was only after the United Nations gave a multilateral structure to multipolarity that we have had engagement and inclusive involvement from all member states in shaping the future. Every era has had its challenges, and India has been widely perceived as a country which bridges divides, speaks for what is just, and takes the world forward in a positive direction in an inclusive and consensual manner. When we look around, the challenges we have now is no less than any time before in history. The world is being wrecked by a devastating pandemic, which is not abating even after 2 years. It is already wiping out much of the socio-economic gains made by developing countries. We have fissures and divisions between countries on the basis of politics, religion, development, ideologies, etc. Conflicts have only increased. Inequalities in development is widening. Climate change threatens all of us, and nobody is being spared, least of all small island developing states. And terrorism has expanded its tentacles to new areas, especially to Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, it is in this context that India was elected to a 2-year stint in the Security Council. We have been quick to rise up to the challenges posed both inside and outside the Security Council. On international peace and security front, the highlight of India's presence in the Security Council so far was certainly our presidency in August last year. It was a presidency that saw several historic firsts, the most significant being that for the first time, the Prime Minister of India chaired a high-level Security Council meeting. The Council adopted a presidential statement for the first time, capturing the holistic concept of maritime security, including the UN Convention on the Law of the Seas, UNCLOS, freedom of navigation, piracy, terrorism at sea, etc. Maritime security remains a priority focus of India. On other matters of international peace and security, we did not hesitate to put forward our views firmly and protect our national interests. For example, it was during our presidency in August last year that the security situation in Afghanistan rapidly deteriorated, requiring the Security Council to act without any delay. We did so with the urgency it deserved. A crucial resolution 2593 was adopted under our presidency, which clearly set out our collective expectations that Afghan soil should not be used for terrorism against other countries, called for safeguards for protection of women and minorities, for inclusive governance, and for urgent humanitarian assistance. Our approach will be guided by these expectations from the international community and by our own close and historic links with the Afghan people. We have delivered life-saving humanitarian assistance and vaccines to the Afghan people, and now in the process of fulfilling our pledge of 50,000 tons of wheat. India has also been chairing the Taliban Sanctions Committee in the Council at this critical time. Another example is the recent conflict in Ukraine. We have consistently called for immediate cessation of hostilities and called on parties to take the path of diplomacy and dialogue. Prime Minister himself has spoken to the leaders of both the Russian Federation and Ukraine several times, especially to ensure the safe evacuation and return of all our nationals. Under Operation Ganga, till date, over 22,500 Indians have returned home safely, though an Indian student from Karnataka tragically lost his life. My deepest condolences to his family. More than 90 flights have crisscrossed the skies to bring our nationals home, even nationals from other countries. We will continue to remain engaged in developments in Ukraine. In all such areas of conflict, including in Myanmar, the Middle East, in parts of Africa, India has successfully played the role of a bridge, bringing together divergent views and pushing for consensus so that peace and stability can prevail. Given our historic friendship with Africa, we have made known our views on unjust attempts to burden African countries with unrealistic sanctions regimes. We have supported African regional involvement and African solutions to African problems with sustained financial and logistic support. History has shown that India will always speak for stability, world peace, pluralism, and democracy. Another matter which is high on our national priority and is now of grave concern, not just in South Asia, but in several parts of the world, is terrorism. When supported and sponsored by states, terrorism becomes another means of waging war. Even COVID has not stopped countries from supporting terrorism, especially cross-border terrorism, as we have seen in our neighborhood and now recently against the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia. During our presidency, our External Affairs Minister chaired a meeting on ISIS and terrorism. This January, India took over as the chair of the important UN Counter-Terrorism Committee for 1 year. We stand determined that our united stand against terrorism should not be diluted by providing justification for terror in any form. In this, we have firmly rejected religious phobias being used to justify terror, or political ideologies in democracies being deliberately misrepresented as radical ideologies to provide fodder for terrorism. Our fight here is not against democracy, but against radical ideologies. We cannot afford to go back to the pre-9/11 era when the world was divided into my terrorist and your terrorists. Terrorists are terrorists. There are no bad ones, there are no good ones. We need collective action. We are strengthening the existing structures like the FATF, etc., to tackle terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, given our predominant role in UN peacekeeping over the years, India continues to be the largest troop contributing country in the world with more than 250,000 troops. We salute the 175 martyrs from India who have paid with their lives to protect civilians around the globe. It will interest you to know that India provided the first woman peacekeeping contingent to the UN, when our brave pioneering women police contingent went to Liberia in 2007 for UN peacekeeping, where they won accolades from one and all. In many ways, they were following in the illustrious footsteps of the Rani of Jhansi regiment of Netaji's Indian National Army. During our presidency, we also held a session on technology and peacekeeping, which was another first. We walked the talk by contributing to rolling out a tech platform in the UN peacekeeping missions for protecting the peacekeepers, the Unite Aware platform, as well as supplying vaccines for all UN peacekeepers around the world. After nearly 5 decades, India also piloted a council resolution during our presidency on accountability for crimes against peacekeepers, which was co-sponsored by all members of the council. Friends, Honorable Prime Minister has outlined a vision of reformed multilateralism, where he emphasized that India can no longer be kept out of decision-making structures, including that of the United Nations Security Council. Apart from our pioneering contribution to the UN, as the largest democracy with strong pluralistic values, India demands a place in the reformed Security Council. The membership of the UN has increased from 51 in 1945 to 193 now. It's untenable that the Security Council continues to reflect the Cold War era frozen in the 1940s, as a result of which it has become increasingly ineffective and unrepresentative in the 21st century. Consequently, its decision-making has suffered. We have seen several recent examples of this. Other plurilateral structures like the G20, BRICS, Quad, IPSA, etc., are now taking its place to cater to inter alia diverse interests and to countries demanding a place in the decision-making structures. However, a small group of countries in the UN are opposing such reform and holding up the entire process as a hostage. They are not only standing in our way, but also in the way of the entire African continent, for example, which does not have any permanent representation in the Council. This anomaly needs to be corrected if the UN has to be more responsive to the changed world. We have already seen the UN struggle to respond to the COVID pandemic and other issues which need our immediate and concerted action. Procrastination is no more an option. Climate change is undoubtedly a major issue which need our collective and immediate attention. India has been second to none in combating climate change, and we have taken on even more ambitious goals in the recently concluded Glasgow Conference of Parties of the UNFCCC last year. However, instead of operationalizing the decisions under the UNFCCC and the Paris Agreement, the developed countries tried last December to bring the issue of climate change into the Security Council in an attempt to override the consensus-based approach of the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. We saw the attempt for what it was, namely to have the Security Council take over the climate change agenda and take decisions without the involvement of most developing countries. It sought to undermine the hard-won consensus in other forums and undermine the principles and provisions of the UNFCCC and hand over the responsibility to a body which neither works through consensus nor is reflective of the interest of developing countries. India voted against the resolution in the Security Council, which in fact was eventually vetoed. We remain resolute in our position that we will support real climate action and climate justice. We call on developed countries to fulfill their 2030 Paris commitments to begin with, including in the critical areas of mitigation, financing, adaptation, and transfer of technology. Let us not forget that for countries like the small island developing states, this is an existential challenge. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you are gathered here to discuss sustainable development goals through higher education institutions. As the Honorable Vice President of India mentioned just now, it is our common endeavor that we, as India, fulfill our commitments towards SDGs. I had the privilege of taking part in Rio+20 conference in 2012, where the first building blocks for the SDGs was put in place. It may interest you to know that at that time, not everyone was looking at a negotiated process in the UN to finalize the SDGs. They wanted to do it like the MDGs, which is the Millennium Development Goals. The Millennium Development Goals were not negotiated by the UN member states, but merely handed down by the UN Secretary General for countries to implement. In Rio+20 in 2012, the developed countries were interested in doing the same thing for the SDGs as well, which is to have a non-negotiated process. At the Rio+20 conference, primarily due to the efforts of countries like India, Brazil, and others, who insisted that these negotiations be done in the United Nations by all member states, a member states-driven process in the UN was finally agreed to. Now, the SDGs truly belong to all member states of the UN, and we have a joint stake in implementing them. However, COVID-19 has disrupted decades of developmental progress on many fronts, pushing millions back into poverty. The pandemic has effectively squeezed the funds available to achieve Agenda 2030 in this decade of action. When we look at mobilizing finance for sustainable developments or for climate change, let us not forget that we are looking at predictable and adequate financing, not innovative accounting. The developed countries are far from fulfilling their pledge on financing. India stands as an example of taking holistic, coherent, and an integrated approach at the national, regional, and subnational levels to achieve the sustainable development goals. We have successfully localized the SDGs. In fact, the UN has itself appreciated our localization of SDGs, for example, through our aspirational district programs, and has held this up as a very successful model of local area development. The UN has in fact appreciated many of the other citizen-centric policies of our government as well. Friends, while I have tried to highlight some important priority areas, India has also taken other significant initiatives recently in the United Nations. To name just two of them, the Prime Minister's initiative of the International Solar Alliance has recently been given observer status in the United Nations. India's resolution for declaring 2023 as the International Year of Millets has been approved by the UN General Assembly. Ladies and gentlemen, our performance in the UN Security Council, as well as the important role we continue to play in shaping the multilateral affairs, again vindicates why the world needs India to be in the Security Council permanently. Friends, I once again thank the Association of Indian Universities for this great privilege to deliver the AIU Foundation Day lecture. I wish the AIU and all the distinguished educationists and vice chancellors and all the others assembled here success in their deliberations on sustainable development goals during the conference. I thank you and Jai Hind.
Thank you, Ambassador Sri Tirumurti, Permanent Representative of India to United Nations. It was indeed an informative and inspiring speech. We all enjoyed it, and it will be registered in the annals and the history of AIU. Starting as a wide-eyed startup in 1925, the Association of Indian Universities has grown into such a big organization, playing an indispensable role in the Indian higher education system. Whereas many organizations have started time to time after that, they have gone into oblivion. Association of Indian Universities very resiliently and resolutely undertook the journey and became a very strong institution. All the vice chancellors deserve congratulations on behalf of everyone. I congratulate all the vice chancellors, and it is indeed a matter of celebration. Now I invite Professor K. Sitaram Rao, Vice Chancellor, B.R. Ambedkar Open University, Hyderabad, to propose words of thanks. Sir, please. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Sabak namaskaram. I, on behalf of Association of Indian Universities and Post University, Mysore University, and on my personal behalf, I feel it a great privilege and honor to propose formal vote of thanks to this great program of AIU Foundation Day lecture organized combinedly by both AIU and as well as Mysore University.
So today, really, we are very fortunate enough to listen to highly esteemed Sri Tirumurti ji, who is a permanent ambassador and permanent representative of India to the UN in New York. And is a great personality, Indian diplomat with extensive multilateral experience in diplomacy, foreign policy, and international relations. And also is the chairperson for this current year in UN of Counter-Terrorism Committee of UN Security Council. This is most important dimension. So really, Sri Tirumurti ji has emphasized many aspects in his lecture, especially the role of India in United Nations. And he said that India played a commendable role in shaping the UN's agenda and its role since its inception. And it always stood by developing world and became their voice also. And indirectly, he emphasized on need to promote quality directed and quality oriented international and global studies and also sustainable development studies by the Indian universities. Really, it is all, in a way, it is our responsibility. We have to take a lesson, and from his great talk today, he delivered to us. So, he also emphasized on many aspects. India always stood for world peace, democracy, stability, development, and various other progressive dimensions of mankind. In a way, it should go forward. So, really, I once again extend my heartfelt thanks to Sri Tirumurti ji who is kind enough to accept the invitation and deliver a thought-provoking and very interesting lecture to the Vice Chancellors on this occasion. And also, I thank the organizers, especially our Honorable President, Professor Tiruvasagam, and respected Secretary General, Dr. Pankaj Mittal, Madam, and also our highly respected Chancellor Sri Hemant Kumar ji, and also Registrar Professor Shivappa for all necessary arrangements he made, and also EC members along with me on the dais, Professor Upendra Dhar, Jagannath Patnaik, Paramjit Jaiswal, and other friends. I also extend my thanks to AU staff who are really working hard continuously since long time, especially Rama Pani, Vijendra Kumar, and also I thank the faculty members of non-teaching, research scholars, students who made this program a grand success in this historical higher education hub of India, that is Mysore University. I thank you one and all. Thanks once again. Thank you very much. Thanks very much for giving me this opportunity.
I would like to get your opinion, Honorable Vice Chancellors. Already we came here by 9 o'clock, all along sitting for another 2.5 hours. There are two options. The immediate next session is very, very important, interesting session as well. Because the previous zonal conference and all, the apex bodies, they have deputed only advisors and middle level officers. Luckily, this session, the top level people of apex bodies are going to come for the interaction. So interaction session is more important. Every one of us have some grievances with all these bodies like NAC, AICTE and UGC and otherwise, NBA and ICAR as well. Top people are coming. What I am requesting, Honorable Vice Chancellor of University of Mysore, he has arranged a small refreshment outside. Or we have to go and come back quickly because already all these speakers, they have joined online. They are waiting for us. What is your preference? Or shall we organize tea here itself? I'm leaving to your choice, I'm leaving to your choice. But Vice Chancellor feels, University Vice Chancellor, it's not fair on the part of University of Mysore to give you a cup of tea in the hand and all. If you are able to stick on the time of 10 minutes, you can go and come back. Which one is better, sir? Pardon? We are here only. We are here only. Am I right, sir? Shall we continue? Thank you very much indeed. All of them, please give a big hand to them as well. It's okay. Bye.
Sir, I announced it. So with the permission of chair, we are continuing with the next session. The next session is interface with heads of apex bodies. Sir has already told you the purpose of this session. For this session, we have Professor Suranjan Das, Vice President of Association of Indian Universities and Vice Chancellor Jadavpur University as chair, and Dr. Mrs. Pankaj Mittal, Secretary General as co-chair. And the heads who have come for this session are Professor Anil D. Sahasrabuddhe, Chairman AICTE, Professor Bhushan Patwardhan, Chairman NAC, Professor K.K. Agarwal, Chairman NBA, and Dr. R.C. Agarwal, DDG, Deputy Director General, ICAR. I welcome you all to the session, sir. And I now request Madam Pankaj Mittal. Suranjan Das sir has not joined. Okay. Okay. Sir, I invite Professor Suranjan Das to come over and chair the session. Virtually, sir. In the meantime,
A very good afternoon to all of you. I would also request the host to kindly unmute Dr. Suranjan Das. He is not able to speak, and also show his video, if you can pin his video over here. So I will just give you a background of this session, that why we held this session. I mean, for last 3 years, we are holding this session because many times we have felt that the universities are wanting to talk to the regulatory authorities, but somehow they are not able to reach the heads of the institutions that easily. So therefore, in every zonal as well as the main session, we request the heads of the regulatory bodies and the apex bodies to come and interact with all of you. Normally they come physically, but this time because of COVID and because of so many urgencies, so they are all joining online. But they'll be available for the question answer session till the end. So there will be hand mics available to you for raising the questions, and all the 4 chairpersons of the regulatory bodies would be there to answer those questions. So the chair session is Professor Suranjan Das. I'll request Professor Suranjan Das to start, and then one by one, he will be inviting all the chairpersons for a talk. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Mittal. Am I audible? Professor Mittal, am I audible? Am I audible?
We are not able to hear you right now. Are you unmute?
Yes. Yes. Am I audible?
Yes, now it is okay.
Yeah,
Please
okay.
go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Mittal. Could I, on my own behalf and on behalf of the Association of Indian University, express sincere gratitude to the four distinguished speakers of the panel, Professor Shaushabude, Professor Patavardhan, Professor K.K. Agarwal, and Professor R.C. Agarwal, for sharing their thoughts on Indian higher education at a time when the Indian higher education itself is on the brink of a fundamental transformation. The AICTE, the NAC, the NBA, and the ICAR have been playing pioneering roles in promoting the cause of excellence in Indian higher education system, of course, in tune with the principles of equity and access. And we do look forward to these apex bodies and their captains to play even more constructive roles in the coming days in India. And it is in this context, as Professor Mittal pointed out, this session is of crucial importance. I am particularly thankful to the Honorable Chair President of AIU and the Secretary General of the AIU to give me this opportunity of coordinating this session, especially when I had the very good fortune of working with each of the four speakers in different capacities. With these words, could I first request Professor Shaushabude to make his submission. Professor Shaushabude, please.
Sir, may I request you to first invite Professor Bhushan Patwardhan, because we are not able to locate Professor Sahasrabudhe. I will just talk to him. Professor Bhushan Patwardhan, sir, are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible, but we are not able to see you right now. Professor, yes, sir, we are able to see you now.
Yeah, I'm in, so my connection may not be that good, but let's see. Nice to see you, Professor Subanjan Das. Namaskar sabko. And thank you, AIU, Professor Mittal, the President of AIU and Vice President of AIU. I will not take much time because I would like to spend time on interaction. But just to give you some brief, I've just 3 weeks ago, I've taken over as chairperson of the Executive Committee of National Assessment and Accreditation Council. You may know that this NAC, what popularly it is known as, that was created in response to recommendation of National Policy in Education 1986. And UGC established NAC the same year actually to serve the function of quality assurance. To understand the mechanism for quality assurance, there was need to have such an institute, and UGC was really very quick in creating NAC at that time. Next year, friends, I'm happy that all the vice chancellors, prominent universities are present in this session, and I want to tell you that next year, that is 2023, NAC will be entering the 30th year. And as we know, the higher education system has gone through several transitions during last 3 decades. And approach which NAC had adopted that time, the first chairman of NAC EC was Professor Ganam, one of the outstanding scholar and educationist. And the founder director at that time was Professor Arun Nigavekar, with whom I had an opportunity to work as well, because he comes from Pune University itself. But the entire approach of the assessment and accreditation has stepwise evolved during this process, and the current director, Professor S.C. Sharma, has done a lot of good changes during last 2 years. Earlier, the proportion of peer review visit was a major component in determining grades. That has now been subsequently replaced with the system-generated documentation driven weightages, and so the individual biases component has been drastically reduced. But while saying so, in last 3 weeks, whatever I have observed at NAC, I have realized that the technology is changing now. The digital technology, new technologies are coming up like artificial intelligence, data analytics, blockchain, and many other advances are happening. And our whole system needs to be get tuned to National Education Policy 2020. NAC was established on the recommendation of National Education Policy in 1986, and now again NAC will have to revisit and reimagine our entire process in the light of National Education Policy 2020. And for that purpose, we'll have to revisit, rethink, and reimagine the methodology, the processes, the outputs, the outcomes, and align them with NEP 2020 recommendations. If you see the current approach, the primary focus of current approach is on monitoring. But the main objective of NAC assessment is not merely monitoring, but raising the bar of quality education. That is the important function of NAC. And to do that, it is necessary to effect significant reforms in the existing system. That's what I have felt. I have also realized that during last 30 years, there has been no systematic effort to take stakeholder satisfaction survey. Now, these days, even if you take a flight, immediately on arrival, you get a message and online satisfaction survey you are invited to participate in. So how was your flight experience? How was your check-in experience? And things like that. So NAC, as one of the major agency giving some kind of service only to the education sector, NAC also should get a stakeholder satisfaction survey, what we call it as SSS. And I have talked to our colleagues, and we have decided that very soon, in a week or so, we would like to take or initiate this kind of a survey. And obviously, NAC means not, I don't consider NAC as only one building which is headquartered in Bengaluru. NAC ultimately also is accountable and also part of the entire education community. And all vice chancellors are important component of this. Many of you have been assessors of NAC as well. So you may have experienced the whole process. You may have some ideas in your mind. You may have some face some difficulties. We would like to know what is your what are your views on that. And not only this survey, but subsequently we are also going to arrange for some kind of a one-day intense meeting. So before that, I would request AIU to collect and consolidate whatever happens today in this session. And in addition to that also, whatever people may submit to you regarding their expectations from NAC, please prepare a concise report based on this with clear recommendations, and we will certainly look into it. So with this, I will stop. I will not talk much about it now, but I will be available if there are any questions. And also, I want to thank AIU because you have put so many scholars in this session. Professor Agarwal, who himself is one of the very prominent academician now chairing NBA. Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe is also have been my colleague, and it was a pleasure to work with him while I was at UGC. And Dr. R.C. Agarwal, DDG of ICAR. I look forward for more interaction. Thank you, Professor Das and Dr. Mittal for this opportunity. Namaskar, Jai Hind.
Thank you, Professor Pattabardhan, for that initial remarks, and you rightly emphasized the need to revisit the process of accreditation methodology. And I'm sure on this point there would be a lot of deliberations in the session. Thank you very much, Professor Pattabardhan. Professor Mittal, I think Professor Sahasrabudhe has joined. Can we request him to make his submission?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please.
Professor Sahasrabudhe, could we please request you to make your submission? Thank you once again for taking time off for your very busy schedule.
Vice President, sir.
Yes, sir.
Ensure that chairperson of NAC will be available for answering questions.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Such sessions, when we rush up, the speakers may not find time to give reply.
Okay, sir.
The most important purpose of this meeting is giving opportunity to the Vice Chancellors to interact with the people who are the guests today. Please ascertain all these things accordingly. Ultimately, Vice Chancellors.
Okay, sir.
Time to interact with each and every one of them. Thank you.
Okay, sir. So as the Honorable President has suggested, could we have an interaction with Professor Pattabardhan?
May I begin, Mr. President, sir? Hello. Am I audible properly?
No, we can't hear you.
Yeah, should I stand? Okay, thank you.
I can hear
Mr.
him.
Pattabardhan, I would make two positions so far as NAC entire accreditation process is concerned. Number one, we have got uniform parameters to all the institutions, whether it's a small college, big college, or very recently established university or the old university. We'll have to give some weightage to the smaller institutions, smaller colleges like that. And certain parameters, especially in Chhattisgarh where I am living today, if you have any parameter of having some foreign students, how these colleges have foreign students into their institution. Thirdly, there are certain rules and regulations of the state governments. I see all colleges have to abide by those rules and regulations of the state governments. So there also we'll have to give some margin as such. And the fourth point which I want to make, that's very pertinent about the language. अभी तक जो कुछ भी हो रहा है हिंदुस्तान में सब समझिए कि अंग्रेजी में हो रहा है. हमारी राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति भी मातृभाषा को महत्व दे रही है. तो कहीं न कहीं हमें जो रीजनल लैंग्वेजेस हैं, हिंदी है हमारी, बंगला है, मराठी है, तेलुगु है, तमिल है, इन सबको महत्व देना पड़ेगा अपने स्नैक एग्रीडेशन में. यही मुझे कुछ बातें आपके सामने रखनी थी. धन्यवाद.
Thank you. Very well articulated questions, and actually these are questions in the minds of many academicians, and I have also realized that there are certain areas which we need to look into it. I can assure you that all the 4 questions are valid, and we will look into it. But as I mentioned, please suggest or please send your specific suggestions, to AIU secretary so that she can compile everything and send it to us. This exercise is going to be during next 2 months. So I would really like you to think about it and send as early as possible. We are also in a process of writing a white paper, and most of these points which you have raised, will be addressed there. One thing only I would like to mention that NAC has already started developing manuals for different specialities, but there are different opinions. that if you start developing manuals for each specialty, then there is no end. Everybody will say that I am different, you know. So there is some component which is common. When you say somebody is educated, you know, there are certain expectations in outcomes. So these expectations are very well articulated in national education policy. So that component will be common, whether you are medical education or engineering education, some components of education, you know, to become a good citizen, to understand meaning of life. These are some of the minimum expectations from any educated person. So these will be common. And there will be some other differences based on your discipline or your other characters, you know, will also be coming in. But developing completely independent manuals, then there will be no end. All these things are in discussion. We have realized these issues, and while we are trying to align the entire process to National Education Policy 2020, issues related to languages, everything, they will be automatically be taken care of, you know. And most importantly, your participation in the process, you know, active participation in the process. Vice Chancellor's body, you know, I always talk to Professor Mittal that AIU is the probably only largest association of stakeholders. So AIU's say must be considered by the government, and government considers that very seriously. And we will certainly welcome all your suggestions and try to do whatever best is possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Patawardhan. Professor Mittal, can we take the next question, please?
Sir, please. Sir, 1 or 2 online questions are there. We'll just have 2-3 questions physical, then we'll.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for presenting about NAC. My name is Shiv Tripathi. I represent.
So we can't hear.
My name is Shiv Tripathi. I represent Atmiya University, Rajkot here. We discussed about different sustainable development goals, and still we are discussing, and our NAC quality assurance framework is also being aligned towards that. Just one very quick suggestion or question you may consider it as, when we have 1,000 universities, unless we mainstream social, economic, and environmental dimensions in interrelated manner within organizations, it would be very, very challenging to produce the impact on the outer side community. So just you may consider for incorporating the mainstreaming parameters within the accreditation and assessment framework of universities, including human dignity, social rights, women, gender empowerment, and community economic impact on the different communities. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor. I can assure you that this is going to happen. The process already has started. Some of the parameters have been taken, but SDG is going to be, we have 2 things in front of us, you know, NEP 2020 and SDGs. The whole new process, you know, will revolve around these 2. And third important component is our own country. You know? So all that we will try to see that our new methodology and process does not become only a kind of a structural assessment exercise, but we want to make a shift from structural assessment to functional assessment. You know, our focus will be more on functional. Just by mentioning we are meeting SDGs is not enough, or just by saying our university deals with critical thinking is not enough. How your students actually are internalizing it, and how as outcome, measurable outcome, your university is producing your product, those kinds of parameters also will have to be assessed, you know. So from structural to functional shift is not easy, but we will give a best try. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Patawardhan. Can we have the next question, please, Professor Mittal?
Yes, please.
Good morning, everybody. I am Laviraj Gupta. I represent Lovely Professional University in Phagwara.
We can't hear. We can't hear.
Okay, I'll be a little louder.
Please, please.
Am I clear now?
Yes, please.
So my suggestion and my point here is that there are multiple dots wherein the data is required. The data is of same kind. We are talking about student faculty ratio, student details, but it is pushed to IC, pushed to NBA, pushed to NAC, pushed to, and because all of you are sitting over here, why can't we have a common repository? The data is pushed at one location only, and the agencies or accrediting bodies can very well collect the data or seep in the data from there. Because what is happening is the multiplicity of the data is really creating quite a lot of challenges. So this is my humble suggestion that if we can have common repository of the data, because all the vice chancellors might be facing the similar kind of challenge, that it is to be posted there, and same data is to be posted. This is my suggestion. Thanks for the opportunity.
No, thank you. Thank you. It's a very good suggestion. And Professor Sahasrabuddhe as well as Professor Agarwal can comment on that. But as I remember, while at UGC, there was a discussion. Even Dr. Pankaj Mittal also may remember there was a discussion and a kind of a central data how we can create. And we are aware that universities are really spending a lot of time in documentation and redocumentation, submission and resubmission, same information, So this is definitely required. And I think all the regulators separately should discuss how we can bring uniformity and how we can create one pool of data so that universities, in fact, in my mind, today NAC assessment is single point assessment. And as same is with other assessors also, can we have because of the new technology, and I will talk to Professor Sahasrabuddhe later, because that is something which is in my mind. Now I can see him on the screen. But with the new technology, Professor Sahasrabuddhe, with artificial intelligence and big data and also security-based systems, including blockchain, it is possible that a lot of data can be captured on real time. So we'll have to really think, if that happens, our assessment systems will become even more robust. So, but this is something which will go on in first discussions and then some proof of concept actions. But definitely this kind of a central data repository is required. Your suggestion is well taken. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Professor Poddar has raised his hand. Professor Poddar.
Because AICT has already initiated One Nation, One Data portal. So that portal is already available. I'm sure when Dr. Sahasrabuddhe speaks, he'll be speaking a lot about that. But that has already been done. One nation, one data, so that the universities have to key in the data only at one point, not at several points. So we
Professor Poddar.
Yeah, namaste, sir. At the very outset, I extend thanks to Professor Patwardhan for his positive way to go for the NAC assessment. And I was just listening, this AIU has given a good chance to the stakeholder to participate in such a good occasion. And here I have one submission to Patwardhan. Sir, you are talking about quality education, and NAC is one of the way where the quality of any institution is assessed. My submission is, in India, there are many universities which is old. There are many which is new. There are central university, there are a state university. My submission is a university, particularly my university, which is only 6 years old, and I am going for the NAC assessment, quality assessment. And in such a situation, when you have a tight way to judge the quality, the standardized form for any university, whether they are a state or the central, whether they are old or the new. Under this situation, what kind of way the NAC will adopt to assess the university, which is only the 6 years old, because of the standard format that you have made. And under this situation, I think the university which is going for the NAC assessment, which is only the 6 years old, what kind of way we should go for preparation so that I can be assessed properly in the national network of quality assessment?
No, your question is very good. I would like to have your suggestion. What do you want, or what do you feel, or what are your recommendations? we want your suggestions also, Professor Poddar. You are going to be part of it. We are going to resolve it together. We want to create a system, by which no inequality, no injustice will be done, but at the same time, we'll be able to assess where the institution is really delivering quality education. That is what is our purpose. And whatever changes are necessary, we will go on doing it. So please feel free to suggest your alternative, how to look at the new institutions.
Okay, sir.
Thank
Professor Farooq Ahmed, you have raised your hand.
Unmute me, sir. Please unmute me.
Yes, Professor Farooq Ahmed.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much. It's good morning to all of you, sir. I'm Professor Farooq, Vice Chancellor, Central University of Kashmir. It was nice to be a part of this program, for 3 days program. I'm sorry I could not be personally there because of some prior engagements over here. Sir, my straightforward question to Professor Patwardhan ji is that since we know that there has been a lot of emphasis as far as the implementation of NEP 2020 is concerned, and every university is trying its hard to just see which components can be implemented immediately and which components are further thought and further adjustment of things here and there. Our university is also, of course, trying very hard to just see what are the components of NEP 2020 which can immediately be this, and then make the ground for the implementation of the entire this NEP. My simple question to you, sir, is since there are some important areas in NEP 2020 which are the bedrock of the success of this policy. For example, there is multi-entry and exit option. There is the interdisciplinary approach. There is the introduction of ABC, Academic Bank of Credit. Then there's a flexibility in the curriculum and embedded curriculum, which not only includes the subject matter, the core subject matter, but also the values, the nationalism, the sports spirit, all these things. So my suggestion is that as far as the 7 aspects of parameters of NAAC accreditation and assessment is concerned, right from curriculum aspect to teaching and learning, and then to the institutional values and best practices, can, under these present circumstances, NAAC have a revisit at this parameters, 7 criteria, and include somehow some important core elements of NEP 20 as an assessment criteria. Say, for example, how the university is going ahead with implementation of multi-entry and exit, some things like that. This is my simple suggestion, sir. Simple question, sir.
Yeah. No, thank you, Professor Farooq. I made it clear right in the beginning that we are going to align our existing process with NEP 2020. So all that what you have said is going to happen. Some part already they have happened, even without waiting for formal acceptance of NEP 2020 also. You remember there was a quality mandate of UGC and there were 10 verticals. So many of the parameters based on these 10 verticals, you will see that in new manuals already they are covered. And the process of adding more parameters or revising existing parameters based on NEP 2020, that work also is going on. I would really like to suggest Professor Mittal that I am going to share with you a white paper which we are working on. And we would like to have AIU comments on that paper as well. So I'm sure a lot of questions will be addressed through that white paper, and a lot of our difficulties may also be able to resolve through this document. So that will save today's time as well. So I would request that you may from AIU side collect all the questions or suggestions and respond to that white paper. You should get that white paper draft in next week or so. Before that, I am going to send out to you the 2 sets of questionnaires, and this is for SSS, stakeholder satisfaction survey. It's a very short survey. It will not take more than 4 to 5 minutes, but I hope that 1,000 universities you can send across and give us a response from all the vice chancellors. And in fact, if the vice chancellors can take up responsibility to involve, especially the state universities which are having affiliated colleges, if those vice chancellors can take responsibility to reach to their principals and get their feedback as well, we will be really, really grateful to all of you, because reaching to principals today is very, very difficult.
So it is a very good opportunity for the vice chancellors. They can send their suggestions as well as the suggestions of the colleges affiliated to them. So a white paper will be circulated to all the vice chancellors through AIU. So that you
exercise of reimagining assessment and accreditation process, so that I don't want to really go on because I can see Dr. Sahasrabudhe and Dr. Agarwal on the screen. Dr. Sahasrabudhe's hand is already up. So I would stop action here and give it back to AIU for further. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Patwardhan. But before you leave, can I ask a question? Now we are thinking that we are hearing that NAC is proposing to go in for binary process of accreditation. Now, what is the truth in that? Because that is the international norm that is going on. And as you rightly pointed out, there is a need to shift from structural to functional assessment. And this shift can also be facilitated if we go in for binary accreditation.
Yeah, no, very good question. Binary accreditation is at present at the stage of discussion. Because if you look at NEP is saying that the first step to go towards binary accreditation is make your existing system robust. That is what NEP is telling us. So first we'll have to really make our system robust. And by 2030, that's what the NEP is indicating, that eventually it will be a binary. It may not happen tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Patwardhan. Thank you very much indeed.
And Professor Das, Professor Ranjan Das, I am going to specially request you, is while I will send this white paper to Professor Mittal for AIU, I am going to request you individually also to give your comments on that. I will send a mail to you separately.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. I have a long connection with NAC. Thank you very much, Professor Patwardhan. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Professor Mittal, can we now request Professor Sahasrabudhe?
Yes, sir, please.
Professor Sahasrabudhe.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Suranjan Das.
Thank you, sir.
Very exciting listening to both, Professor Patwardhan on one side and many other queries asked by many people, and which creates a lot of enthusiasm in understanding both new national education policy which has come in being, as well as the sustainability and sustainable development goals. Colonel Thiruvasagam, who is the president of AIU, Madam Pankaj Mittal, Professor Das, yourself, Bhushan Patwardhan, Professor Agarwal, all vice chancellors. I think I am very pleased to be here. I wanted to be physically present in Mysore. I had committed, but because of last moment changes, I was not able to come there. But physically, nahi hai to digitally I am available. I know that is what has happened. The various aspects of new education policy are being discussed in the last 1.5 years. I think many of them are now clear about what it all talks about, but still there are doubts even in the minds of vice chancellors. And that's why the conferences of this nature are very important in order to discuss these threadbare and start implementing. One of the most important things which I notice in the new education policy is how the entire business of education can become very smooth. That is what in the commercial aspects we'd say ease of doing business has to be also there in education. And that's why one of the vice chancellors, when he asked the data being asked by multiple agencies, that's where I had raised the hand. And Professor Patwardhan was also saying that Professor Agarwal and Professor Sahasrabudhe, they are doing something about it. So we have been on this job for the last 5 years. Fortunately, now we are coming to the success. We had to convince ministry, which conducts this ISHE survey annually, and then whether it is AICT or UGC collects information from all the institutions annually. There are other organizations also collect annually, and I have noted that for a ordinary college or a university in some state, they have to give data 8 times in a year for different agencies, and 80 to 90% of the data is common. Then why should each one of them give each time different places, same keying in of the data? And that is where the mistakes start occurring. If you have to give data only once, the university or the college will take care meticulously so that the data is accurate. But now when multiple people in the college or university are asked to fill in this data, depending on their understanding, they will fill the data and there will be inconsistencies. And then we start blaming that university is trying to fake the data. I think we need to create a infrastructure wherein the data is collected only once. And we have already had RFP. We are selecting an agency to create a portal where one nation, one data concept is going to be there. It is also going to be there for Study in India program also. So there are many universities who take in foreign students. Each one of them, why should they be keeping on asking to fill the data at different places? Ministry of Culture has its own program. So the whole process of what government is trying to do is ease of doing business in terms of whether it is regulatory business. And that's why merger of AICT, UGC, NCTE and all those agencies into HECI is also one of those agendas which is there in the new national education policy. It may take some time to create an act and then do it, but nevertheless, the policy is very clear about making the whole process as easy as possible for all stakeholders, be it students, be it faculty, be it the vice chancellors or universities, or for that matter, the other part from outside, that is industry, where they come in for doing their, giving jobs to our students or giving internships. So everything has to be made as easy as possible is the approach which this particular policy is talking about. And therefore, our multiple entry, multiple exit, academic bank of credits, giving importance to our Indian knowledge systems, giving importance to innovation, giving importance to wherever possible in the form of education being imparted digitally in terms of online education or ODL education, whereby we create more gross enrollment ratio, much easier, how we can start sharing of our resources. Earlier, otherwise, we always used to say that each institution must have independent building, land, playground, everything. How we can also share some of our resources, thereby cut the cost on education, cut the cost on overheads, how the universities can become larger, colleges also can graduate to become universities, to become degree awarding institutions. I think all of these are there and various nuances of this are being worked out by various committees, and many of these things are now coming out in the form of regulations. There are regulations which have come out from AICTE, some regulations from UGC. I hope if we all read them carefully, we understand how empowering the new education policy has been. And therefore, whether it is in terms of employability, whether it is in terms of creating entrepreneurial ecosystem, whether it is in terms of internationalization, getting foreign universities in India or Indian universities going abroad, or programs which are not just twinning, but dual degree or double degree, all of that are in the pipeline. Some of them have come in, some of them are on the portal to give the inputs, and some others are in the phase of actually formulating the gazette notifications themselves. Therefore, in almost all the cases, except some of those tall things like reaching the gross enrollment ratio to 50%, or all the affiliated colleges becoming autonomous and then finally degree awarding institutions, that cannot be possible overnight. And just like our Professor Bhushan was also telling that even though it is only yes or no type of accreditation, there is no scoring which is going to be involved. That all will take some time. Some of these things will take 5 years, some of them will take 10 or even 15 years. But many of the activities that are pronounced in the new education policy are already being rolled out. Some of them are already being implemented. And so in the first 2 years itself, many of these things are happening. The next part of this, which is also connected, is also about sustainable development goals. One of the goals is also about education, and that's why how we connect SDGs with the education sector. And not just the education goal of the SDG, but all other goals, 17 goals, are some way or the other related with education. Whether it is taking care of environment, our planet has to survive. There are also some of the watchdogs who say that the life of this planet, if we do not change the track, in 7 years will be irreversible. You know, in thermodynamics, we call reversible reactions and irreversible. So if we are reaching irreversibility in 7 years, then I think we are done. This is the only planet right now for survival and living, and we should not go to that state. And that's why one more thing which we have been advocating is net zero, not zero. Zero right now is no good. We need to become net zero, and our Prime Minister also has given commitment that by 2070 we will have fully net zero. And that's why all of these concerns in terms of our Indian knowledge systems, with the kind of knowledge that we had in terms of environment, I think especially environment, in terms of healthcare, the COVID has shown us that a lot of stress is generated by yoga, meditation. How can we control ourselves? I think these are all very valuable things which should become part of the education system. And for anyone, wherever some student is there, if that student wants to learn something new, different from what is not existing in his college or university, the Swayam portal was already there, but it is being expanded to include even other portals similar to Swayam from not just our nation, but outside also. That also is being talked about. So that means what we have started doing under National Educational Alliance for Technology in terms of getting such kind of AI-based products, which students can buy, procure, and then make use of them in terms of employability. But gradually, some of them may become part of the curriculum in terms of 1 credit course or 2 credit courses, which is a possibility in the near future. However, there are always challenges when there are transformations happening. There will be certainly some turbulence, and we need to understand in fluid mechanics to make it laminar flow, it will take some time. And that is the phase in which we are going through. I want to stop at this because the time is very short. I've just crisply given on just about 7-8 minutes my thoughts on not only new education policy and sustainability. If there are any questions, I'm available for the next 5-6 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Shubhode, for setting the ball rolling for, I'm sure, for what will be a very effective interactive session. Professor Mittal, can we then take the questions?
Yes, sir. Dr. P.B. Sharma wants to ask one question, sir. Dr. P.B. Sharma. And anybody else, you can raise your hand so that the mics can go to you. Volunteers, please give the mics in the hands of the people.
The past president of AIU.
We can't hear. Can you be a little loud, please?
I really have no question other than to say that the AIU had set up a committee for accreditation and ranking under my chairmanship, and we have conducted highly meaningful satisfaction survey and opinion survey of Vice Chancellors of India. And the report which we have submitted to AI contains certain meaningful recommendations. My only prayers to Honorable Patwardhan ji and also to Dr. K.K. Agrawal Sahab would be to pay some attention to this report. Now that the new world is in the making, the landscape of higher education is deeply changing. We cannot be fitting one size to all universities also, and we need to pay a greater attention to the cause of employability, the cause of integrity, the cause of credibility of the university, and also the quality and eminence of the faculty that we nurture in our university campuses. And we also need to now understand that tomorrow's higher education is not per se data driven. It will be driven by the calls for integrity, credibility, and the relevance for which we all exist. And therefore, I think, in my opinion, major reforms are required both at the level of NEC as well as NIRF. And I'm sure with Professor Patwardhan going from UGC to NEC as our honorable chairman, such major reform would be in the offing. And same is the case with NBA also, and also the National Ranking Authority headed by Professor K.K. Agrawal. I have all my hopes that we would be echoing the sentiments of our vice chancellors contained in this report, whereby we have overscored the importance of integrity, credibility, faculty eminence, and the relevance of higher education to make our Mother India smile and be proud of the universities of India. Thank you so much.
Professor Arvind has a question. Professor Arvind.
Yeah, so this is Professor Arvind, Vice Chancellor of Punjabi University, Patiala. I want to make just 3 quick remarks. I think the fact that new education policy has brought to us that Indian higher education system needs a makeover is very important. And the kind of flexibility that is being talked about, many of us may find it difficult to implement, but I think it is need of the hour, and we must revamp our system to adapt this flexibility, which is a very important thing. The other thing I want to say is that the horizontal and vertical connectivity of higher education is something, again, which to some extent policy talks about. Higher education institutions must interact all the way on the one hand with primary schools and horizontally across the globe. So this also is partly there, but maybe we should develop this further. And as was mentioned, that some aspects of having all colleges autonomous and everyone giving their own degrees is something that which is going to take much more time. And I think we also should not hurry in that direction, because immediately we have to also maintain educational standards. So on the whole, I think the discussion is going on in a very healthy way, and hopefully we will be able to together give a makeover to Indian higher education system. Thank you.
Professor Shashtravati, would you like to respond?
Yeah, I think, thank you, Arvind ji. Basically, there are no questions by either Professor Sharma, or these are all complementary things which they have said. So thank you very much. But I just want to reiterate 3-4 things.
There are some questions. Please just wait. I
Please.
will just gather 3-4 questions and then you can respond.
Yeah, please. Why do you conduct it?
Mother Teresa University. So there are some hands raised in the audience. I'll just invite them and then.
Good afternoon. Thanks for the opportunity.
So we can't hear you, madam. We can't hear you.
Put the mic closer to you.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Dr. Vaidehi from Mother Teresa Women's University, Kodaikanal, Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu has got lots of reservation in adopting NEP policy. And as far as women university is concerned, we feel that when we have an exit option, the students leaving the course, instead of studying for 3 years, they may leave in first year or second year or third year. And how this can be prevented, or how this can be taken care. That is what is very important as far as our university is concerned. Thank you very much.
And sir, we'll take all the questions. Either though, please.
Good morning, on the dais and off the dais. I am Professor B.P. Veerabhadrappa from Kuvempu University, Vice Chancellor, Kuvempu University, Karnataka. Long back, Dr. Montek Singh Ahluwalia has said that there should be higher education accessible to all the people. When Professor Sahasrabudhe was talking about, I was really impressed. But there are certain serious issues that are very much before us. As to how do we be able to have the entry and also exit? And how do we be able to go for the open electives? Number 3, most important, as to how do we be able to find that there are certain critical issues that can accommodate all the students into the mainstream of higher education. I think Professor Patwardhan was talking about as to what NAC guidelines are talking about, but as to how do you really find that universities are working for NAC guidelines, maybe C or B+, B++, A+, A++, and all that. I think this is one aspect that all the university vice chancellors are intending, that there should be a war on the targets that are being fixed by NAC, as what Professor Bajpayee was talking about, as to how regional issues are very, very important, and how do we be able to take those regional issues, and what Professor President of AIU was talking about, as to how regional issues are very important and how autonomy for universities are very much important. I think these are some of the issues that I wanted to make a present. Thank you very much.
Just give it here. Here, please.
Thank you very much. I'm Professor Upadhyay from Charotar University of Science and Technology, Changa, Gujarat. I did appreciate the NEP policies, but what I find is still we are keeping no space for those students who are accelerated studies they would like to do. We have fixed the number of years even now, 3+2, or it has made to 3+1+1 for postgraduate. Where is this room for those who are intelligent enough, those who want to complete their studies within 3 years and would like to do something? And I think this is one of the things which is missing in the NEP policy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So now we'll request Professor Dr. Adrian Javachvi. Sir, very quick question because time is short. And Dr. Surappa. These two only. We'll take one, Dr. Adrian Bajpai and Dr.
Yeah,
Surappa.
this is a question to the Dr. Sahasrabudhe. You know, these educational policies, 86, 96, all now coming to the NEP 2022. You know, one policy to another policy moved on. Did any of the regulatory bodies or the government made an assessment of what are the success and the failures and what was to be done? Have we been able to document any such things? Now we are bringing NEP 2020, which is a drastically different. It requires a big change in the economic setup, financial resources. At the same time, in the state universities are coming under the grip of the state governments, where they are not able to play much role. And what kind of things that your bodies have been able to make the changes that is required to be these policies to be successful? You know, after 5 years, will we again take a review of what is happening to the NEP, come out with a new policy? I think this is a need to be done, addressed very carefully, Professor Sahasrabudhe. I think, this is where I think we need to learn from the lessons. What were our failures and what were our objectives? Were it just producing a graduates or just producing a, unicorns? What they are doing it now? Are they solving the employment problems? I think these are the things I think you need to study. A regulatory body like ACT and all is to be done in a greater depth. I think this is where I think we need to ask the questions. Okay, that's why I'm asking question, Dr. Sahasrabudhe. Thank you.
Last question by Dr. Adrian Bajpai, then we'll request him to speak.
My very simple question is that we are always talking under the aegis of national education policy.
Can you please be a little loud? We can't hear.
Hello, sir. Yes. I think I am audible.
Yes, please.
Yes, I was just saying that we are discussing everything under the aegis of national education policy in which there is no role for silos. We want to make entire educational system is an integrated and holistic one, which Honorable Vice President of India was also mentioning in his inaugural address today. So AICT just to see keeping for science and technology education only, I think won't serve the purpose for the nation as a whole, which P.P. Sharma also reiterated over. How AICT is going to include our subjects like philosophy or those of social sciences or humanities. I think now role of AICT should not only confine to only science and technology and tidbits, but it will have to expand its role for the nation as a whole, for the cultural ethos, cultural values. Those things shall have to take into consideration. It's my humble submission. Thank you, Sahasrabudhe. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Professor Mittal, can I please ask a question before Professor Sahasrabudhe responds?
Sure, sir. You have it.
Professor Sahasrabudhe, once again, thank you very much for your submission. And I would like to put on record the excellent way in which you are giving leadership to the AICT. In fact, you are one of the few chairpersons who responds to each and every email instantly you get. You send an email at 12 o'clock in the night and you get the response at 6 o'clock in the morning. So this is amazing. Thank you very much indeed. So one thing, sir, I would like to make a suggestion. Under your leadership, AICT has strengthened the University Industry Partnership Program, and you have initiated a large number of schemes. For example, you have correctly laid emphasis on the internships of the students. Now, very often what happens, there is a clash between the academic calendar and the internship that the student gets. Can we think of devising a mechanism whereby there could be a transfer of credits for the students going in for interns so that they do not get a disadvantageous position in terms of getting academic credits? That was my suggestion, sir.
Thank you. I think the questions will keep coming, so I will now stop the questions. I will start answering. Starting from the last one, Professor Suranjan Das, we have already said that for internship, we can give credits.
Okay.
Not only that, we have also indicated that there must be some activity points that the students must undertake, and for that also we can give credits.
Correct, sir.
So credits is not necessarily only for the classes they attend or the tutorials or the experiments they do, but what they learn even outside the premises of the institution, wherever they can be evaluated, there can be credits which are going to be awarded. So this is
Okay,
number
sir.
one.
Okay.
And to support internship, we have created an internship portal, and
Yeah.
it's not meant for only technical college students. It is also available and open for liberal arts, commerce, science, any particular higher education student. There are internship opportunities for such students as well. I think the universities must make this website of ours popular. Although it is under AICT's name, it has content which is required for all variety of domain of knowledge. And today we talk about multidisciplinary education, and that's why people from engineering background are also allowed to take courses in humanities and social
Yeah.
sciences. Professor Vajpayee was asking this question, that we have already made the curriculum such flexible that students can take along with maybe physics, a course on psychology, along with a course in mathematics, a course in music. This is all allowed. But of course, you cannot take only courses on music and ask to give a degree in mechanical engineering. That is not possible. There are certain number of credits up to which one can take. I think that is the second part of it. And then Dr. Sharma ji was rightly saying that importance of values. Ultimately, each one of us are talking about what is the outcome that we want to achieve out of the higher education. In fact, education itself, it is good human beings, good citizens are to be created. Automatically, they become employable, they become entrepreneurial, they will serve the society, they become the leaders. And therefore, the common universal human values course which we have developed, and the training is being given constantly to faculty members for student induction program and universal human values by AICT. More than nearly 1 lakh faculty are trained in the last 3 years. And I'm very thankful to all these volunteers who don't take a single penny as honorarium, but week after week, full week program they are being running. And it was initially for only technical institutions, but many university vice chancellors have adopted it. I'm very thankful to all the vice chancellors who have adopted. Others also may watch this. They may train themselves first and their faculty members, and subsequently take it down to the students' level. As far as multiple entry exit is concerned, there are challenges. I will agree to that it's not easy, well said, but while implementing. But we have created a robust mechanism. Our approval process handbook, which is going to out in about a couple of days' time, has shown a clear diagram as to what we will be able to do. The policy also talks about vocational education, skill education, and general education, so that movement from one to the other should be easy. It should not be difficult. Today, it's not so easy. A student who has done an ITI wants to come into diploma or engineering. It is not so easy. We had a committee where 14 subjects we had identified for entry into engineering itself, and there was a hue and cry. So I think there are possibilities of making entry exit easily possible, but suitable bridge courses will be required at both the ends. While you enter with a different type of a qualification, naturally, in order to become level with the rest of the students, you need to do certain bridge courses. That means all prerequisites to understand the courses which are going to follow have to be clearly done by the student. This is very, very important. Similarly, if someone exits at the end of 1 year or 2 years with a certificate or a diploma, there will be no market for him to get a job unless certain extra courses are given to him, make him slightly expert in certain domain, and if you give a certificate, he becomes employable. And therefore, large number of possible bridge courses, both at entry and exit, have to be done. We are only giving sample, but each university is autonomous. They can develop their own and then allow this to happen. And the fear that how can some student leave at somewhere in between and then come back some other time, what will happen? Please take it for granted that this number is going to be very, very minimal. It will not even be 2-3%. Because anyone who joins a particular program, they want to complete that program. They want to complete the degree. Now, who are the ones who will either quit and go in between? The ones who have some real financial difficulty at the family level and therefore they cannot continue their education, they may want to leave. There may be cases where a student was not at all interested. His parents had thrust him into this education. He's not doing well. He wants to go out. Otherwise, I don't think anyone who has taken with a due diligence a course of medicine will continue in medicine. One who has done in engineering will continue, and so on. So I think we should not have too much of a fear about entry-exit. Large numbers will not happen. But nevertheless, if someone has such difficulty, today the university, our rules, regulations, both from university side, AICT, UGC were not permitting. Today we are opening a window of opportunity to such candidates who have real such difficulties. Lastly, there was a talk about Indian languages, the ethos, the states and all of that, some states not allowing. I think the policy is so liberal and so open. There is nothing to be opposed to be. But still, if someone says that we don't want to, whatever they are doing is in fact part of the new education policy, whether they agree it or not. Secondly, in terms of Indian languages being provided for in the higher education, we started last year itself, and I'm very happy that in 6 languages, in 10 states, 20 colleges adopted teaching of engineering in Indian languages. And these languages start from the Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Marathi, Bengali. And thereafter, just now, we started receiving that Odia, Gujarati, and also Punjabi. They also want to give education in these languages. We have created an artificial intelligence-based translation tool. We have translated courses of Swayam in the first year, all of them into 8 languages, and we are increasing it to 12 languages. We have also got the books written and the books which are available translated by using AI translation tool, which makes our job easier. 80 to 90% of the work is done by the tool. Remaining 10-20% finishing touches are to be given by the experts who know the language and who know the subject. I think this is empowering and which we have already done. Lastly, please also participate in becoming innovation movement leaders, actually, because universities are the places where innovation to take place. And MHRD means now Ministry of Education's Innovation Cell is located. We conduct Smart India Hackathons. We have innovation councils established in different institutions. The innovation need not come only from technical institutions. It can come from an arts college. It can come from a science college. It can come from a commerce college. My appeal to you is be part of this whole movement whereby we create a new India, which is going to be a very, very powerful nation, but which is very, very soft nation, which will take care of the whole world with our philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam and Sarve Janaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Namaste.
Thank you very much, Professor Sarsubade. I can assure you the IU will be definitely a part of the new movement that you are speaking about. Thank you, Professor Sarsubade. Professor Mittal, can we then request Professor K.K. Agarwal?
Yes, sir, please.
Professor Agarwal? Yeah. Namaskar. It is indeed my very personal pleasure and privilege to invite Professor Agarwal to share his valuable thoughts on the problematic that has been chosen for discussion. Professor Agarwal, it is under your effective stewardship that the national ranking framework is being organized, and it is again under your pioneering leadership that the process of accreditation of engineering institutions, technical institutions are being successfully organized. We do look forward, Professor Agarwal, to hearing from you, and I'm sure it will again introduce new entry points for deliberation. Professor Agarwal, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor Das and Dr. Mittal for chairing this session. I hope I'm audible. Yeah?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Let me first of all thank President AIU, Dr. Trubsgam, and Secretary General, Dr. Pankaj Mittal, for giving me this opportunity to be a part of this great session, to talk to the distinguished vice chancellors of this country on the most important topic on accreditation. Dear colleagues, I have heard Professor Patwardhan and Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe, and it appears to me that each one of us will say the same thing, is saying the same thing and going ahead on the same path. In a way, it's a very good symptom. And whatever vice chancellors could ask questions and intervene, I definitely feel all of us in the country are together on the basic need, as Professor Sahasrabudhe said, to join the movement for changing education. Unfortunately, academic world has been somehow become least open to changes, had become most conservative. And I was many a time surprised when we wanted industry to tell us what to teach. And there was a time 4 decades ago where industry used to ask the universities, what should we try to plan? And things like that. Meaning thereby that the universities were always fast thinkers, were always supposed to lead the nation and the world. But somehow, with the passage of time for a few decades, it became more and more structured and over-structured, I would say, and thereby creativity and innovation taking a backseat. Friends, my topic of discussion, which has been assigned today, is on National Board of Accreditation, Chairman, and ranking a little bit. National Board of Accreditation, as you're all aware, is primarily for the accreditation of programs which are in the domain of AICTE. That is, we deal with engineering, architecture, pharmacy, management, fine arts, etc., etc. For the time being, at least, we are not venturing into any other programs. What happens after NSE comes in and things like that has yet to be seen. And the second the distinguishing feature from NAC, which again all the honorable vice chancellors know, NBA always goes in for program-wise accreditation. We do not go into the institution as a whole. Of course, in some situations where we wanted institutional accreditation also to be quantified, we and AICTE jointly worked on and made some guidelines like this, that if more than half the programs in an institution are accredited, we can take that institution as accredited for the point of view of autonomy and all that. Having said that, program-wise accreditation is our domain of working, and we intend continuing with that for the time being at least, because word over, at least all the regulated programs are on program-wise accreditation. And I personally believe as we go more and more interdisciplinary, the time and maturity of each program will be different. And tomorrow, if IITs start medical colleges, law colleges, for them to become as good in quality as their technical education is, will take time. And therefore, if we go into the statistical average of all programs, it may not be very, very desirable. Therefore, program-wise accreditation may continue to stay for some time at least in the programs which are of specialized nature. In the national education policy, it has been clearly said that the new norm of accreditation will be, new norm of regulation will be accreditation, meaning thereby that gradually accreditation will be mandatory. Now that gradual process will take 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, 15 years, nobody knows. But ultimately the spirit is you ought to be accredited for an institution to stay, or you may not be able to stay for long if you're not accredited. The reason is very simple, because accreditation is a process which is normally carried out after a few years of existence of an institution. By then, we definitely expect the institutions to have recruited the faculty, to have set up the labs, to set up their systems, to set up their research ecosystem, to set up their consultancy ecosystems, placement scenario, and so on and so forth. And therefore, accreditation process is in a better position to measure the metrics than at the very initial stages when UGC or AICTE grant the approval, because that is mostly on the green field and you have to go by promises rather than actual deliverables. Third thing which I would like to point out is NBA is a member of the Washington Accord. And in the Washington Accord, we have a very nice lesson to learn, and that lesson is, which has now come in National Policy of Education, that's outcome-based education. NBA was going in for outcome-based education right from day one, primarily mandated by Washington Accord, where we really do not say that say a degree in electrical engineering must have 3 courses in mathematics, 2 in physics, 2 in chemistry. We don't say anything like that. We only say an engineer must have these 12 graduate attributes. Now, the whole process is built that way, that an engineer must have these 12 graduate attributes. And to achieve these 12 graduate attributes, how do we work? We leave it to you. It may be different for different institutions. It may depend on the strength of the institution, may depend upon the local conditions, so on and so forth. But how do you achieve that is an open question. And that's the whole philosophy of outcome-based education. As long as outcomes are achieved, this is fine. And I think one of our colleague, the Vice Chancellor, was raising this. How do we go ahead with that? And we are doing it for last 15 years or so. Let me hasten to add, if you say that the system is perfected, no, please. As Chairman NBA, I'm forthright admitting we have much more to do to really translate outcome-based education into ground level reality. Our system is still a mixed kind of system where we do take care of outcomes as well as inputs to some extent. But gradually, the philosophy is to go to outcome-based education. And Washington Accord mandated for all the 21 countries which are at the present members of the Washington Accord. When India became the member, we were 15th in the row. Now there are 21 members of the Washington Accord, and all these 21 members have the same list of 12 graduate attributes for engineering education. In addition, you can add some program-specific objectives, but basically this remains. So that gives us an advantage to have a level playing field with these 21 countries, which include Australia, New Zealand, UK, USA, etc., Malaysia, Indonesia, everything, Singapore. So these 21 countries graduate from an accredited institution is placed at par of the graduate of an accredited institution from India. That gives a lot of confidence to the student and to us that our real thrust on outcome-based education is taking place. Having said that, I would use this forum to request the Vice Chancellors, let's not focus on accreditation. Let us focus on outcome-based education. Once the education is improved, accreditation will have to be given to you. It's nobody's case that how accreditation can be given. Once the teaching learning process is taken care of, when the research deliverables are taken care of, faculty quality is taken care of, accreditation metrics are automatically satisfied, and that will have to be incorporated. I thank AIU for giving focus on this in a particular session. And let me again say that the focus chosen for this Vice Chancellor's conference on sustainability development goals is really, really great. And I compliment the President and the Secretary General and all the standing committee members of the AIU to have chosen this topic. Because this is a topic which was there in the list of books several years ago in 2015, formally the countries of the world prepared a list of 17 sustainability development goals, but we have done precious little in these years. And handling of COVID is one thing which tells us that our sustainability development goals had not reached even midpoint. Had it been there, probably suffering because of COVID would have been far too less. Not that the COVID would not have been there, but the effects would have been much less if we would have done that. So therefore, sustainability development goals focus is a must. We have to do that. And all the 4 regional conferences of AIU focused on a few sustainability development goals. And in this annual session, it's a compilation of all 17. Kindly allow me to make a statement that education as one sustainability goal is not the only one our concern. Our concern as Vice Chancellors is all the 17 sustainability goals. Clean energy, can it be without education? Eliminating hunger, can it be without education? Solar energy, energy efficiency, education, minimum standard of living, sustainable cities, sustainable towns. Nothing can be done without education. So I think it will be very, very limited view if we think education as one of the sustainability development goals is our main concern. Yes, but other 16 are, I think, equally important concerns. And I'm happy that you're taking all 17. Washington Accord, we have a meeting every year. And in this year's meeting, first of all, I would like to share the news with you. Of course, it's a little old news that Washington Accord is reviewed every 6 years. And NBA's membership of the Washington Accord was renewed in the last meeting. And the system is that you must have 2/3 member countries voting for your robust system. And I'm so happy to share with my colleague vice chancellors, I think maybe rarely in the history of Washington Accord, all the other 20 countries supported India's robust system and unanimously voted for India to continue its membership of the Washington Accord because of our systems. Having said that, it might sometimes appear to some people that we are little stringent. But to keep in view the sanctity of Washington Accord, we have to keep international standards. And also in the last meeting of the Washington Accord, we did say that sustainability is for India's suggestion that sustainability should now become one of the graduate attributes. And there have been some webinars on this. And finally, now Washington Accord is very serious, considering that can they make sustainability as one of the recognized graduate attributes of all engineers. Once it is done there, probably it will be a little easier for us in the country to take it to all domains of education, because personally I believe sustainability will be a parameter for all kinds of education and all levels of education. Having said that, friends, I always believe sometimes what appears apparent may not be the real truth, and therefore to design matrix to measure all these things is always a challenge, and we are always open to keep on revising the matrix to the extent we can, because it's a dynamic curriculum. What appears visible may not be always the right most metric. So how do we change the metric? How do we make the system more and more dynamic? And finally, Professor Sahasrabudhe already clarified, and to the query for Dr. Saranjan Das, I think data problem has to be resolved, because I sometimes feel very guilty that our university faculties are busy in collecting data, and pardon me saying, at times at the cost of taking a class or guiding research. I think we have to be doing something jointly, very serious on this, because I would never prefer accreditation over teaching or research. With these initial remarks, I'm open to any queries if I can be of any assistance to the Vice Chancellor. Thank you very much.
Thank you indeed, Professor Agrawal, for that very exciting and excellent presentation, sir. The floor is now open for discussion. Professor Mittal.
Yes, sir. Any questions from the floor? Professor Ved Kumari.
Good morning and good afternoon. Am I audible to you?
Yes, yes, madam.
Okay. I have a question for Professor Sahasrabudhe. He invited us to look at the website, and I was looking at the one nation, one data. He said that it's almost ready. And what I see, if I would need some guidance on this one, what I could see was that in January and February, we have floated a tender for asking for parties to apply for creating that. So my sense is that we are not really ready with the portal in the very near future. So, and I did hear him say that for the last 5 years, we've been working on it. So I was just wanting to know that what is the status of, because we are, I think as Vice Chancellors, already raised this issue that supplying data on multiple forums has been very problematic. So what is the status there really?
I think Dr. Sahasrabudhe has left. I am not very sure. Vijender, Dr. Sahasrabudhe is there. But I think he said that in a couple of days it will be there.
No, what I do not know, because the website of AICT, where he asked us to look at, visit that, I was looking at, what are the possible options for us to use that website. And I found that the tender has been floated in January, then revised in February. Tender asking for people to apply to create the portal. So I do not know whether the portal is not updated or whether where is the gap in the information.
So Dr. Sahasrabudhe has left, so we'll target a question to him and come back to you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Please.
Good afternoon. I am Dr. Sunil Rai, UPES Vice Chancellor. This question is to Dr. K.K. Agarwal, sir. Since I also was fortunate to serve as the General Counsel of NBA for about 5 years, basically there is a feeling that accreditations are mostly for STEM related programs. I just wanted to understand from Dr. Agarwal, sir, as to what is the thought for now that NEP is a reality. We are talking about non-STEM programs, which we want that these programs also should be regarded as well as the other ones. So for liberal studies, fine arts and others, is there any thought for accrediting such programs which are not under the direct ambit of
Okay, please.
To select the questions.
This is just a related question. So just to reflect on what you said, it's no more STEM, it is STEAMs, science, technology, engineering, arts, and man. All the question to be answered by Dr. Agarwal.
That is what he asked, that why STEM is not STEAM. So Professor Agarwal, please.
Yeah. I appreciate the question which has been asked by Dr. Sunil Rai and complemented by others. Well, I think at the moment NBA accredits only programs which are in engineering, management, pharmacy, architecture, etc. But what will happen tomorrow after we get Hacky Bill, and then NAC is one of the 4 verticals, and under the NAC, NAC will be there, NBA there, plus XVZ, maybe anything. So then how do we define the role of each of the accrediting agencies will have to be seen. But nonetheless, STEM is important. And now our job, say for example, if we have to accredit a mechanical engineering degree, it will be for us to see, has the mechanical engineering degree enough inputs of other disciplines also to make it a more balanced mechanical engineer? So the challenge will be, somebody will have to accredit mechanical engineering as mechanical engineering, civil engineering as civil engineering. As Professor Sahasrabudhe was also saying, flexibility will not mean any subjects anywhere. It will have to be a judicious mix somewhere, and focus on interdisciplinary education, which is exemplified by STEM as modified as STEAM, will be when we accredit a mechanical engineering program, we will also gradually have to see whether it's enough broad-based mechanical engineering as envisaged by NEP or very traditional mechanical engineering. But the focus on we are trying to stop the bifurcations at the school level. For example, +2, ultimately, maybe after 10 years, may not be a science team, PCM, PCB, etc., but we still continue to live with engineering degrees. Now, if I have to give somebody a degree of civil engineering, he cannot study any 40 courses on earth and claim to be a civil engineer. So somewhere we will have to define what has to be done, how much component can be interdisciplinary, how much component can be multidisciplinary. There may be a lot of flexibility, but within the boundary conditions. And therefore, job of accreditors will also be little more flexible, but little more challenging. But nonetheless, it will have to be defined that way. So I don't see any major change happening except the change of mindset, change of rubrics. For example, in the coming years, we may not be required to be very stringent about the head count of teachers in mechanical engineering, because a lot of students of mechanical engineering might opt to study courses outside. So why will you have teachers in mechanical engineering if they opt to study courses outside? So these will be some challenges which will come in and which will have to be adapted to the system. Short of that, I believe the basic philosophy would remain. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Any other
Professor
question?
Suranjitas, we can go ahead with ICAR.
Yeah, can I, but before that, can I raise a question?
Yeah, sure. Most welcome.
Agarwal.
Sir, one
Thank you
question
very much.
here also from
Professor
lovely
Mittal doesn't
professor.
want me to ask the question. That's why he's
Right.
shifting.
Sure,
Professor
most
Mittal,
welcome.
can I have your permission to ask the question?
Sure, sir. Sure.
Madam, can I proceed?
Sir, you have rightly laid out the new parameters for accreditation. You also indicated that you could shed some light on the NIRF ranking, which you are also spearheading. Sir, I had one question, sir. Now, in the NIRF ranking procedure, there are parameters which can be verified without visits to the institutions. And there are parameters which can be verified without visiting the institutions. Now, can we envisage a system where different weightages can be given to these two sets of parameters? Otherwise, sometimes it creates a lot of confusion. That was my suggestion, sir.
Yeah, I agree with you. Dr. Das. Parameters are many and weightages are already different, but probably your suggesting is that weightages may have to be relooked.
That's
and
it.
some weightages might have to be increased, some
Sir.
weightages might have
Yes,
to be
sir.
decreased. And
Yes,
your point is importance of the parameter is one thing, but its measurability is another thing.
Sure, sir.
So
Sure,
let's
sir.
assign the weightage depending upon importance as well as
Sure.
measurability.
Sure, sir.
I see your point and we'll look into it. And I will also request AIU at some forum, at some point of time, maybe a roundtable of vice chancellors or something, which can
Sure.
tell us what
Sure.
should be done.
Thank you. Thank
Because
you.
this is
Thank
our
you.
own system, we can change anytime.
Yeah.
Nobody has forced the system on us. At the moment, I have received some comments only about perception. And because in international rankings, perception goes up to the 50% level, we kept perception only 10%.
Sure.
Because we did not want to keep it zero, because ultimately institutions have to go in for international ranking also. And
Sure.
out of these 10 also we have tried to quantify, for example, if your NAC accredited, 30% weightage is already there and so on and so forth. But nonetheless, I think I see your point, because it is neither feasible nor practical to
Sure.
visit the institutions.
Sure.
Therefore, more weightage to more correctly measurable parameters
Sure.
may
Sure.
be built into. We'll be
Sure.
open to this, but
Sure.
I and the ranking society may not be sufficiently adequate. So I
Sure.
believe a good representative group of vice chancellors
Sure.
may not pick up all amongst the top few.
Sure.
Mixed wide spectrum group of vice chancellors
Sure.
can debate on it and
Sure.
give us the parameters. We'll be open to this.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much, Indian Mr. Agarwal. Professor Agarwal, thank you. Professor Mittal, you now have a new challenge of organizing a roundtable. Professor Mittal.
Hello. Yes.
Professor Mittal,
Yes,
you
sir.
now have a new challenge of organizing a roundtable.
Yes, sir, we'll do it. No issues at all. Sir, just one question from the Vice Chancellor of LPU, and then we'll move on to Dr. R.C. Agrawal.
Good afternoon, Dr. K.K. Agrawal Sahab. As Madam very rightly said, I represent lovely professional university. So when FYUG, the ideologies and doctrines of FYUG are coming into picture. The multiple entry, multiple exit. The philosophy is now coming up. Don't we think that we need to look to graduate attributes with a different point of view? Because the program outcomes specifically for engineering or STEM kind of thing would change. The program articulation matrix would also change. So I would beseech, I would request you as the chairperson of the NBA to kindly amalgamate the philosophies and ideologies together, so that we can rewrite possibly graduate attributes and program outcomes in light of.
I have understood you correctly. Your question is, we at the moment define graduate attributes at the end of the degree. If we are giving various exit points, will we define graduate attributes for the exit points? Am I right? Is this your observation? That instead of defining graduate attributes only at the end of the program, you want us to define graduate attributes at every exit point. Have I understood you correctly? Am I not audible?
Because the earlier voice was a little left over. We could not hear your complete sentence. Kindly repeat it once again.
No, what I am trying to say is, if I have understood your question correctly, you feel at the moment we define graduate attributes only at the end of the degree, because there are various exit points, we will have to define graduate attributes at every exit point. Is that right?
Yes, sir. But
I agree.
With those redefinitions,
we'll have to do that,
the program outcomes would also change.
In re-emphasize what Professor Sahasrabudhe said, let us first be very, very concerned with the integrated nature of the complete program. See, this multiple entry, multiple exit is a facility given to the students. And as Professor Sahasrabudhe said, I don't expect even 1% students really to take advantage of, somebody may take a gap year, that's possible. That does not change the graduate attributes. Graduate attributes only change when somebody wants to leave and not come back. If he's coming back, then the same graduate attributes will apply. I would feel let us be more concerned with the integrated degree and have the proper definitions, and then in between we define credits or something, because if we start defining graduate attributes for every exit point, it may become a little unworkable system. This is what appears to me at the moment, but maybe we'll have to look into this. I personally feel graduate attributes for the degree may be defined, and when it comes to focus on 99% or the focus on 1%, see, this multiple exit is a facility. We give a facility to somebody who for some reason cannot complete the degree. It's not a normal option which will happen. And as I again repeat, if somebody comes back after a year, then your question does not remain valid. Then the same graduate attributes will apply. So only those who have to leave for some reason or not, family doesn't have means to support or something, I personally again feel it is in nation's interest to bring them back in by giving some assistance or something. But still, if 0.5% have to exit, that cannot be our focus point of designing the entire quality matrix. We can have some intermediary point, but our focus probably let it be on the overall degree. That's what I feel.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. So Ranjan Das, sir, can we take
Yeah, can we then request Professor R.C. Agarwal to make his submission? Professor Agarwal?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Could I request to make a submission? Warm welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. How much time I have got?
10 minutes.
Can I make a presentation, a small presentation?
In 10 minutes, you please conclude.
Yes, before 10 minutes, no problem.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you very much for this, and sorry that I could not come physically to this beautiful place, Mysore. And I'll just make a brief presentation and maybe. Can you just see it? I hope you are able to view it.
Yes, we can see.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. So I'm just placing before you the agriculture university domain. This is just, you can see we have a domain of 74 agriculture universities, which have now the different subdomains also. Like we have the separate universities for the veterinary universities, horticulture universities, fisheries, and so on and so forth. But now, as per the new education policy, we have to see that how we have to make them multidisciplinary, and that's what now we are working on, and asking to have the collaboration with the traditional universities. And already we had discussed these issues with the vice chancellors. We have 95 PG level subjects, and UG level subjects, there are about 11, and we provide doctorate in about 80 subjects through these agriculture universities. Now I start with a brief of my recent visit, which I made to one of the university. There is a Dr. Y.S. Parmar University of Horticulture and Forestry at Solan in Himachal Pradesh. And I called a meeting of the students who are being benefited at the UG level through our incubation programs. I discussed with a young girl, and I was really touched by the statement which she gave. She just told me that, sir, a special training program which we have organized under this World Bank scheme, NAHEP, which we are running. She got to know about how to have this mushroom farming. Job during this COVID period. By having this mushroom in his garage. So that is the kind of intervention. And when I discussed with almost 300 students, I could not find even a single student who was saying that they want a job. They were all saying they want to become entrepreneur. So that's the kind of outcome of this agriculture education. You can see the devoted students of UG, how to extract the oil from the different medicinal plants. Recently I inaugurated this incubation center, and they were so excited to work in that particular lab. So this is just a small example. You can see there are a lot of other IT interventions where the students are trying to learn. There are many hydroponic facilities. There are many AI-based technologies, many things, high-tech agriculture, which now we are offering to the students, and students are really excited to go for their own entrepreneurs and not to get the jobs, which is, I think, the sense of the new education policy. And we have for this made a lot of studies that what kind of shift is there in the employment opportunities or in the placements or for the entrepreneurship, and we can see that a lot of scope is there for the startups. And for that, we are making a study that what is the possibility of placing our students, and accordingly how much we can increase the gross enrollment ratio. And for gross enrollment ratio, I'll just show another slide where we are seeing that how much we can increase. Already, we are going to reorient our one of the flagship program of UG, that is the Student Ready program, the Rural Entrepreneurship Awareness Development Yojana, which constitutes 4 major parts: the attachments to the rural areas, the experiential learning, the in-plant training, and the student projects, And under experiential learning units, which I showed initially some photographs, the students are able to have totally hands-on practice for 6-month period. And accordingly, we have revised their course curriculum to include all important aspects, ICT, biotech. We have started some new programs also in many subjects which are now required by the students. We are also now trying to have, through a resilient agricultural education system, we are going to have an international conference also where we'll discuss with about 50 global universities that what are the best practices and how we can again reorient ourselves according to the NEP. The current career opportunities and what are the future opportunities for the UG and diploma courses. We are going to start, already we have started a lot of diploma courses now as per NEP certificate courses, and we are making provisions for the multiple entry exit and seeing that what kind of placements can be made for different kind of streams of the students. I'll not take much time. Then we have also made a study that what is the in the existing teacher faculty ratio or the student teacher ratio, what is the capacity to increase the intake, and we could find that in the existing structure we can have additional 74,000 students, more students at the UG level, so that we can maintain the ratio of 1:10. That is bifurcated for the state agricultural universities, central agricultural universities, the ICR deemed universities, and overall we have seen on different parameters. And around 60 new courses, like the one I just told you, the mushroom raising, the hydroponics, the many other topics we have incorporated. The English speaking, communication skills. In the last 2 years, around 58 courses we have incorporated, which are generating a lot of interest among the students, and they mainly focus towards the entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial skills. But we also give focus of the personality development, the vocational courses, and the communication skills, industry-oriented courses, and many more things we just give emphasis on. This is some of the UG programs, like in one of our most important deemed university, Indian Agricultural Research Institute. We are going to initiate some UG programs, diploma courses, certificate courses from this academic year. Already we have made all arrangements, and we have to also involve our students in training when they are going for 6-month duration to the villages. So to train the unemployed youths and to tap those young generations in the villages for different skills, maybe for a period of 1 month, 2 months, whatever period is required by those. And that's what now we want to have through this Path scheme. I'm going to discuss with all the vice chancellors that how we can have this implementation of this scheme. And similarly, how we can have the agriculture education at the school level, at the middle level, and at the higher secondary level. So that also now we are finding the pathways, whether they can visit the nearby Krishi Vigyan Kendra, or they can visit the university if it exists there, or they can visit the different ICR institutes. So that all plan now we are going to make for this better awareness. So that you can see that up to primary level, we can have the EL kind of things, farm visits, and for secondary level, we can have the specialized modules, and for the higher secondary level, we can have the vocational skill-based study courses. For the UG programs, recently the UGC has made a committee. I'm chairing that committee, and we have already formulated a course so that we can introduce in the traditional universities also some courses of the agriculture. This also shows that how the students are more excited to get admission in the agriculture. You can see if you compare the data from 2016-17 till date, so there is a more increase on number of applicants for the same number of seats. And especially for PG and PhD also, you can see that how students are more excited to get admission. Ultimately, I can say that how we are going to implement this NEP. One of the strategies is that how we can have the revised course curriculum, so that if somebody wants to exit after 1 year, they can have the certificate. And if they want to exit after 1 year, they should not be deprived of the practical knowledge, which presently we give in the 4th year. So that's what now we are trying to adjust. And for that, already we have developed a roadmap submitted to the Ministry of Education. That what is our roadmap up to 2035 to implement various provisions of this NEP. And already we have started working on this. We have already made a 6th Dean's Committee report to revise this course curriculum to have various mechanisms of taking admission of the students. And for MSc and PhD, again, we have taken many aspects of this NEP, like for the MSc programs, we have started the internship also now, idea. And for MSc programs, we have also started by consideration of the research guide, the members of the advisory board students from the industry side or from any other university, wherever they find. So it's not necessary that they have to be only the academic council member. So that's what we have started implementing. So this is the details how we have to implement various activities. Already we have asked the universities to increase at least 10% of their seats. And we have asked the universities to exempt this compulsory residential requirement, because if you increase the gross enrollment ratio, we don't have the sufficient hostels at present. And we have to also see that how the deemed universities have to be converted into the model research universities. We have made a detailed program for that. So like that, we have to have many different points. And for this resilient agricultural education system, we have to focus on 3 aspects: the digital infrastructure. Already a lot of digital infrastructure we have placed at different institutes. We have a Krishimake cloud computing system where we have this LMS, we have artificial intelligence and many more things. And we are now also trying to have the complete digitization of all the course curriculum.
Dr.
So that,
Agarwal, can you conclude, please?
yes, I can conclude now. Just give me another 1 minute. Okay. So that's what we are now trying to focus for digital capacity building and other kind of things. Okay. And I can just conclude by saying that the challenges and this potential areas of interventions we can categorize into 3 levels: the pupil, process, and technology. And in all these 3, we are working. We are seeing that how we can take help of technology to improve our process and to train more and more people and to attract more and more human resources from the rural areas. So thank you very much, Dr. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Agarwal, for explicating the new initiatives that have been taken under the aegis of the ICAR in the realm of agriculture education. Professor Mittal, do we have time for questions?
Sir, I'm afraid because the next session is at 2, we don't have time for questions. I don't even see any hands raised, sir. So
could you then propose a vote of thanks?
Yes, sir. We can thank Professor Agarwal. You want to give some closing remarks, sir, Dr. Suranjan Das?
No. You go ahead with the vote of thanks, please.
Okay. So thank you very much. Thanks to the 4 chairpersons of different committees, Professor K.K. Agarwal, Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe, Professor Bhushan Patwardhan, and Professor R.C. Agarwal for engaging with the Vice Chancellors, and also thanks to all the Vice Chancellors for very actively participating in this session. I'm sure you must have benefited from this session, and this session will continue in every conference of the AIU. So thank you very much. Thanks to all. Over to Rama. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam. So we
Excuse me, madam.
Yeah.
See, you have been given very limited time to raise questions. I think you have more number of questions with you. As suggested by speakers, we have to consolidate our questions and queries and to be sent to the concerned officials. What I am suggesting, we have a session in the afternoon, business session between 3 and 4. Please be there, and you can very well, that time it is our time only. There's no time restriction and all. Because as far as I am concerned, equal importance should be given to the Vice Chancellors to place before the grievances of their own and the domain as well. So, at all, please, you are most welcome. We will list out all the requirements and grievances. And we will see that, as suggested by some of the chairman of the speakers, we will take it directly to them, or we will invite them to AU office, because they are prepared to come to AU office. On behalf of you, I will submit, and our Secretary General will prepare this memorandum. This is for your kind information, sir. You need not feel that you have not been given an opportunity to speak whatever you wanted. Is it okay, sir? Let us meet again during the business session and list out our grievances.
Thanks a lot, sir. That's a very good suggestion, sir. Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you.
So we have come to the end of this interface with the heads of apex bodies session. In the meantime, we had the privilege of Professor P. Kaliraj, Vice Chancellor, Bhartiyar University, and the Governing Council AIU, Governing Council member AIU to join. I welcome you, sir. And in the beginning of this session, I was given the profiles of the speakers and the chairperson to read out, but they're all stalwarts in the field of higher education and they need no introduction. We all know them. So I didn't do that. With this, we have come to the end of this inaugural and Foundation Day lecture and Apex Body session. Now, this is the time to actually celebrate the Foundation Day. In this year, 96th year, we have the privilege of having Professor G. Tiruvasagam, a very dynamic and visionary person as president of AIU. And we take this opportunity to felicitate him. And I request Madam Pankaj Mittal to felicitate him with a memento. Can you please?
On this August occasion,
One by one, give to Madam.
As the Vice Chancellor among us, I request the couple come to the end. I request the
Madam, so I request Madam to felicitate all our Governing Council members. Professor Jaswal, Vice Chancellor, SRM University, Sonipat. Professor Upendra Dhar, Vice Chancellor, Shri Vaishnav Vidyapit, Indore. Professor Patnaik, ICFI, Sikkim. Professor Kaliraj, Bhartiyar University. So, Madam.
Sir, our lunch is arranged in the Vice Chancellor's bungalow.
So,
it is 300 meters away from here. Of course, 2 buses are waiting. We have to take the bus and we can reach the Vice Chancellor's bungalow, have our lunch. Immediately after lunch, you will be
Vignan Bhavan in the campus. Immediately after the lunch, we all adjourn to the Vignan Bhavan in the Manasa Gangotri University campus. There, all sessions will begin. Thank you very much.
So next session, I want to make an announcement. Madam Kavita Sharma is present here. Next session is in the other venue, Vigyan Bhavan. We will take you there. Apart from Madam Kavita Sharma, who will be chairing the next session, we have Dr. Amiya Bhaumik, Dr. Bhola Thapa and Dr. Aditya Malkani, I request all of you to have your lunch and let us assemble in Vigyan Bhavan. Buses are ready there. And the next session will begin at 2 p.m. after lunch. Thank you.
Thank you.
ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಡ್ಲೆಸ್ ಐತೆ ನೋಡಲ್ಲಿ ಹಂಗೆ.